Well, hello everybody. Welcome to the show. It's uh, it's in case you missed it, the Thursday show we do where we kind of talk about what's happened this week. It's kind of more of a free, open flow format where we can talk about pretty much whatever you want to. I still had some things I wanted to cover tonight, but we've also had some guys make some suggestions in the comments that work as well. I want to give it a few minutes for everybody to get here. Sometimes the notifications go out late. Sometimes people have to find a place to park. So we'll give everybody a chance to get parked. A lot of people, I want to tell y'all what hat I'm wearing tonight. Everybody always asks me about the hats. This is another one from the Thermo King in Lubbock, Texas that they gave me. And I really like this kind of a dark blue, kind of matches my truck with kind of a silver backing. A lot of you said you liked the one I wore the other day. The back was kind of like a flag. It was a nice hat too. And then I got one more that I'll show you maybe in the Tuesday video. I'm not sure yet, but I've got so many hats in here that I'm either going to have to thin the herd or I'm going to have to find a way to hang them and organize them in here. Um, I like to keep it kind of fresh and have a new hat every time. So we'll see what happens. But anyway, let's say hi to those that have joined us so far. My good friend Mark was the first one in today. He's listening and driving. He says to remember to hit the thumbs up and subscribe. Yes, please do that. That really, really helps me, and I'd appreciate that. We've got YouTube royalty in the house. DIY Semis here, and he says, let's go. He's ready for the show to get started. Josh McLean is here. Hey, love your videos. Very informative. Thank you very much, Josh. And DIY with his suggestion. We'll kind of do this through the night. Can we play a game tonight? How many trucking cliches can we drop in the chat? Him and Cash did this the other day, and it was pretty funny. So I don't mind if we do that. If y'all want to throw some in the comments, I'll kind of pepper them in throughout the show. And he gives us an example, as well as my good friend Tim Back. So DIY's example of a trucking cliche is, I've got more miles backing up than you do going forward. So if you've got a cliche like that you would like to throw out there, throw it out there. We'll hopefully it's clean. It's PG rated or below, so that if we've got any young adults watching or easily triggered, easily offended people, we don't offend anybody. Tim says he'll do his best to be on. Have a good show. Thanks, Tim. Tim also gave us a trucking cliche. I'm going to skip down to it. He says, I've been driving since your mama was changing your diapers. There you go. Gary Cook is joining us from Ruffine, Virginia at the White's truck stop. I actually like that truck stop if it's the one I'm thinking of. Hadn't been over there in a while, but I am headed to Pennsylvania, so maybe from there I can get something going to the southeast or back to the Midwest. That would be great. That's kind of what we're going to talk about tonight. I got an email today from a guy that's over at Swift, and this isn't going to be a video about Swift, but he's on a sliding mileage pay contract, and he's struggling a little bit. And I want to talk about that because, a lot of guys that are on a sliding mileage pay scale or even a mileage pay scale always think percentage is better. And a lot of the percentage guys think that their deal is better. Well, which one's really better? I'm going to read you this guy's email. I'm going to tell you and him at the same time what I think his problems are. And then I'll actually get on a very large, famous load board that we would all know if I name the name of it, which I'm not going to do. And I'll just read you some of the rates and we'll talk about it and kind of the pros and cons of both. Like I said, we'll sprinkle in those trucking cliches. We can talk about the truck driver that ran from the cops and got dog bit some more if you want to. Got a lot of good comments out of that video, by the way, both in email and in the actual video itself. Good friend Ted is here. Uh, yes, sir, I'm doing well. We can talk about my truck, what's been going on with it if you want to. We can talk about my revenue and how that's been going. Whatever you guys want to talk about tonight, the Thursday night show is the time to do it. Um, Good friend Vic is here. Thanks for coming in, man. Hey, Todd, Travis here, checking in from Dallas. Man, I would love to be in Dallas right now, but the rates to Texas are just awful. But lucky you. Where are you heading from Dallas? Do you know yet? Hello from Lexington, Kentucky. Hey, Roger, thanks for coming in tonight, man. Info on places you've investigated for truck financing. So, I mean, I've looked at a lot of companies. It depends on, I could do a 2 hour show on places I looked. Anytime I look for anything, trucking job, truck, anything, I start with a very big list, almost like a reality dating show. And I start asking them what they call qualifying questions in sales. And I narrow the herd down to 3 to 5 companies, and then I make my final decision. And the reason I chose Avery and the guys over at Cordell was the 2 year warranty, the being able to take your truck to any company, things like that. Now, some honorable mentions. I also looked at Accelerate Leasing. My the big deciding factor there was they didn't have a warranty. You had to go out and buy one on your own. Also looked at a place out on the East Coast. I don't remember exactly where. Diamond Truck Sales. The big problem with them was follow up, getting salespeople to call you back, things like that. I talked to Aero Truck Sales at a couple of locations actually, and their down payments were just ridiculous, I thought. I also talked to Lone Mountain. At the time, I didn't have my LLC long enough to do a deal with them. I did talk to SFI, and while you get a new nice truck, I just felt it was too expensive, and I didn't like that you had to pay a transfer fee to move that truck to another company. So rather than make a video about it and kind of promote all those companies, what I've been doing is just telling people to email me, and we'll talk and look at your situation, how much down payment you got, things like that, and I'll try to help you make a good decision. There was another company I think it was in Nashville, HEC Leasing. They were pretty high on the list too. The down payments were a little higher, but they seem to have really nice equipment. Good friend Wesley Baxley is here. Hey, thanks for coming in, man. How about a Henway for sale? A Henway? Are you sure? Is that not a typo there, Roger? Joe Bananas is here. Love the name. That's hilarious. Eddie is here. Greetings, Todd and family. Hello, Eddie. Thanks for being here. I'm headed to Taylor, Pennsylvania. Yeah, Eddie's here. Been as an owner operator at Swift for 60 days. We're going to take a look at his email here in a minute, because honestly, I've received probably 2 or 3 dozen similar emails to it, and I think there's a lot we can talk about there. And so I look forward to doing that. And it's not picking on Eddie. It's not picking on Swift. It's not picking on anybody. It's just some things I want to point out that I think might help all of us, myself included. Because we all get a bad attitude sometimes, and we all think, the grass is greener on the other side of the fence. The deal I'm doing is not as good as what my neighbor's doing, and maybe I need to switch and do what he does. And quite honestly, I think that's why that truck drivers change jobs as much as they do. You got these recruiters calling you saying, "Oh, we're going to make all your dreams come true. Just come to work for us." And then you get there and you realize it's same song, different verse. It's not any better than where you were, or it's slightly better, but there's other crap you got to put up with. And so we're going to jump into it here pretty quick. I just want to give a few more minutes of the notifications to go out and people to get in here. Lone Mountain wants 40 payments of 2,000 plus 5K down, which is 80,000. I'm guessing 15% because the truck is worth about 60. Yeah, well, the thing you got to remember, and this is going to be true with any company you're getting a truck from, if you're considered a first-time buyer, you're going to get screwed. You're going to pay more for the truck than it's worth. You're going to put more down payment than what you would if you had bought 2 or 3 trucks previously. And the reason for that is you're a bigger risk than a guy that's been doing it for several years. So I realized, like in my case, I'd been doing lease purchases for over 20 years. I had paid cash for a truck. Had I financed that truck instead of paid cash for it, I could have got a much better deal. Had I had an 800 or an 850 credit score, I could have got a lot better deal. So just know your first deal is probably not going to be nothing to brag about, but you got to get your foot in the door. And prices are slowly starting to come down. But you know, if you'd have bought a truck a year ago, they were ridiculously high. And so there's some correction in the market right now. And hopefully within the next 6 months, some of you will have some money saved up and be ready to buy a truck. And hey, I'll be honest with you, it's a lot like buying a car with bad credit. Even if you've got decent credit because of you being a first time buyer for a business equipment. The more money you can put down, the better equipment you're going to get. And that's just a fact. I will let you know about my percent pay when I start August 16th. It starts at 70% of the load. Yeah, I'm getting 80 over here, and it's really more than 80 because he pays a lot of stuff in his 20%. So I really figure I'm somewhere between 84 and 86% if you calculate in all the other stuff that he does there. Maybe 88%, but I'd feel comfortable saying 84 to 86% because there is a lot of stuff that he's covering on his side of it. Some of it's big stuff like the cargo insurance and things like that. Some of it's little stuff like no transaction fees when you use his fuel card. A lot of companies will charge you $3 or $4 each time you use their fuel card. Other little things he does is he gives us 100% of the accessorials like layover, detention, things like that. Now, granted, it's rare to get those things in the spot market, but I had 2 TONUs in 1 week, and I got 100% of those. He didn't take a cut of them, and he's the only company I've ever worked for that didn't take a cut. On an 80-20 split, they'd take 20%, or when I was at Dart and did a 70-30 split, they'd take 30%. So I thought that was really good. Dallas to Temple, back up to Edwardsville Yard. Well, there you go. Good friend Asphalt Jungle is here. Thanks for coming in, man. Sure, DIY. You can have a wrench. I know you. Consider yourself wrenched. We don't typically kick people out for disagreeing with me unless they get really vulgar or go way over the line, and that goes if they treat another commenter in here really bad. We can have civil disagreement in here, but usually first offense, we just time them out. And then if it gets really bad, we have had to block a few people, but it's a pretty rare occurrence. I actually encourage a good debate in here if somebody's articulate and can put up their side real good. Someone always asked if anyone had anything for sale, and someone would always come back, I got a Henway for sale. Then naturally they'd say, what's a Henway? Okay, I get it now. I'll be honest, I didn't know what a henway, and I didn't know what a henway was. I was about to like secretly Google it while I was doing the show. Matthew Miller is here. Hey man, thanks for coming in. So the last thing I saw about yellow, and this was a couple of days ago. I hadn't been following it real close because I still think somebody's going to fly in and save the day. Was Asian Mai put out a story that they had told the drivers to stop delivering freight and return to the yard. I don't know if that's true or not. Um, Sometimes he puts out really good information, and sometimes it's tabloid like and later disproved. So I don't really know. I think everybody's just kind of in a wait and see. If anybody's got any information about yellow you want to share in here tonight, that would be great. Also, if you guys see a news story or something you'd like me to do a video about or talk about, email it to me at todd@truckertodd.net. And if I think I can make it interesting or I think other people will be interested in it, I'll try to get a video out about it. Always looking for show ideas. Just a curiosity question. Do you think you were willing to give out the names of the companies that you used to run with because of the referrals? Wait, I got to read that again. Just a curiosity question. Do you think you were willing to give out the names of the companies you used to run with because of the referrals? So, man, that's a really frustrating question for a lot of reasons. Um, so, if I understand this question correctly, he's asking me, do I only mention companies that pay me referral bonuses? And I can say unequivocally, without a doubt, no. And here's why. Um, there's a guy in the chat right now uh, that is coming to work for the company that I work at right now. That he, I didn't receive a referral bonus on him. I knew I wasn't going to receive a referral bonus on him. I referred him to where I'm at because it's a good company, and I thought he'd be a good fit. There's another guy, good friend of mine. He called me about two trucking companies. One of them I would have been paid a referral bonus. One of them I would not have. And he asked me which company I thought he should go to. And I said, well, what is your goal in trucking? And we talked about his goals and needs. And I ended up recommending that he go to a company that I received no money on and that I'd never worked for because I thought in his particular situation, it would be a good fit for him. Um, the assumption I would make by reading your comment is that you do think that I'm a sellout and that I only refer people to places where I make money. I think you'll find there's a lot of people that'll say I helped them get on companies. Heck, I still help people get on at Dart, and I hadn't worked at Dart in several years. I still help people get on at Swift, and I hadn't worked at Swift in several months. I still say good things about F2F, and I don't make any money off F2F. So I'm not sure if I answered your question or not. If I didn't, hit me with a follow-up question, and we'll try again. But yeah, I'm kind of surprised by that one, especially since I think you know me, and I think we've talked on the phone before. So I'm not real sure where that question came from. Good friend Red Raider Reloading is here. Hello, Trucker Todd. Hey, Red Raider. No Fear is here saying hi to everyone. I just want it for the status, LOL. Well, DIY, I think your channel is a lot bigger than mine. I need to receive some shout outs on your channel. You and Cash have a channel multiple sizes larger than mine. Good friend Ramon is here. Hey, man. I sent you information about my new company by email. Yeah, I hadn't had a chance to check it out yet. I made a delivery early this morning. I went and picked up another load, and I barely got parked in time for the show. You might notice if you go back and look at the history of this channel, the last few Thursdays, I hadn't even been able to put a video out. I've been working my tail off. But hopefully tonight or sometime this weekend I can check out your email. Want to talk about Surge Transportation still posting loads while filing bankruptcy on their creditors? Here's what I'd say about that. Maybe I don't want to talk about Surge specifically, but any company that you are in let me start again. Let me back up a little more. I am not a lawyer. I don't give legal advice. I don't give tax advice. I give trucking advice. However, it is my understanding of the law that when a company is in bankruptcy, independent contractors are among the last to get paid. So if you're thinking about going to any trucking company that's in the process of filing bankruptcy or might be considering bankruptcy, I probably wouldn't be an independent contractor there. Company drivers are going to get paid prior to independent contractors, owner operators, whatever you want to call yourself. If you're getting a 1099, you're going to be among the last to get paid. So you may get left being owed a lot of money you can't collect. I actually had a company, this was 2003, 2005, sometime like that. I worked for a small outfit of about 100 trucks in Denver. He went bankrupt and I lost about $1,800 he owed me. And while that's a lot of money now, that was a whole lot of money back then. So just be careful if you're considering working for a company that you think their finances aren't great. Gary Cook says on Monday, Yellow is filing for bankruptcy. That may be true. I can tell you it would be a bad idea for them to publicize it if that's what they're doing. It's better to keep those things secret until you do it. Just putting the truth out there as adults, you take the information and act on it. No shade to Swift, but they need to be more forthcoming with information during their onboarding process. Yeah, I agree with that. Swift's onboarding process was non-existent when I started. They are trying to come up with some stuff now, but they don't. They still don't give you a lot of information. Some of that is they expect you as an independent contractor to kind of know your stuff. And some of it is that lawsuit that they got in. They were basically told that orientation is for employees and they don't want to do an orientation per se, but they are coming up with an onboarding thing, maybe 3 or 4 hours to kind of tell you the basics, things you might need to know. Because while you might know your stuff, every company's a little bit different. Hey, Todd, sorry I'm late. No problem, man. Glad you're here. And anyhow, the load boards are allowing it. Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. You know, here when I book a load with anybody, they want me. The guy I work for wants me to run a credit check on them, and I've got an app I go to, and because he's factoring the loads when he gets the bills from me, so he wants to make sure that he's going to get his money. You can't blame him because he can't pay me if he doesn't get paid. I love this headset, and like I said, we're still negotiating the discount for my viewers that buy it. The last I heard, I'm supposed to be getting a contract tomorrow, and once I get that contract, I got to put some finishing touches on the first video, which is an unboxing, and then a few days later, I'll have a review video come out. It's the benefit of YouTube. You can get 3 or 4 weeks worth of work in just a couple of days. So while it took me several weeks to review this headset, you'll see it the same week, and then you can decide if it's one you want or not. Tim says, I can vouch for this. He has never gotten any referrals off of me. He had helped me on numerous occasions. I had given him 3 donations of $19.99, and it was well worth it. Yes, sir. And I appreciate those donations. I can promise you that. A lot of people don't think, and the reason I don't get on here and do what they call e-beg, which is basically get on here and beg for donations, is because I'm doing this voluntarily, and I do make a little money from YouTube. It's like uh, third world country minimum wage money, but you do make money off of YouTube after you get to a certain subscriber level. And there's some expense involved. StreamYard, I pay $25 a month for that. I had to purchase additional data, additional phones to do all of this stuff. Um, and so anytime somebody makes a donation, it offsets those costs, and I definitely appreciate it. It's the ultimate compliment. FreightWaves published a story yesterday that stated Yellow was planning to file bankruptcy on Monday, the 31st. Haven't seen anything else on it since. Yeah, I'm really behind on trucking news. I've got to get caught up. We'll share you out next live. I don't want to bump today's post. There you go. I appreciate that, DIY. Sometime we're going to have to get you on the Tuesday show and let you talk about maintenance and things like that, because you're really knowledgeable, and I've learned a lot just watching you myself. Wesley says, okay. Yes, Serge is a broker. If I'm not mistaken, I don't know if I pulled one of their loads lately or not, but I have pulled them in the past. Swift rates $1.83 a mile max is what you expect to make as an owner operator, $1.40 a mile, and max fuel surcharge 43 cents. 90 empty deadhead mile. Do your math and make decision wise. Actually, Eddie, and this is what I wanted to talk to you about. Some of your information is a little incorrect, and so we're fixing to jump into your email, and I really want to help you understand things a little better. And so let me get just a couple more comments, and we'll jump right into that email. Yes, I saw it on the news about Yellow. Yeah, that was not what I meant by that question. I don't think you do it for the money. Okay, good deal. I was like, man, I don't know. A lot of people do think that about me, though. Oops, I saw. And we got no fear saying, okay, all right, let's jump into this email. Um, you can tell Eddie really wants to discuss it, and I really want to give this email a fair shake. He says, hey, Todd, it's Eddie. I hope all is well. It's 60 days in as an owner operator for Swift, and it's tough. Coming from a background like yourself, 3 days of experience, I don't understand how these planners don't understand owner operators and their operations to be successful. Okay, I'm going to say the first thing that's going to upset everybody. It's not your trucking company's job to make you successful. And what I mean by that is their job is to make them money. And so they're not looking at it from, I hope Eddie has a good week, I hope Todd has a good week. They're looking at it as, we've got 300 loads we need to cover, and we need to be profitable. Those loads need to be arriving on time, undamaged, so that our customers give us more freight. And so while your company might like it if you're successful, because then you're not going to quit and go somewhere else, your dispatcher's primary function is to cover all his loads and make his company money. The risk does not match the reward. Now, I agree with that, and I think a lot of drivers would agree with you right now. The one thing I would say is that we're in an awful economy right now. And so nobody anywhere, I shouldn't say nobody, almost nobody is doing as well as they would like to right now. And I'm going to talk about that more in a minute too. The highest I have earned after expense was $1,600 per week. Okay, I can tell you that when I was at Swift and I had people look and people challenge me, I was averaging usually around $2,500 a week. So there's a couple of things there. I realize it's apples and oranges. That was a few months ago, 2 or 3 months ago. But I would ask you to look at your situation. When you're in a mileage contract, there's really only a few things you can control. And one of them is the cost of your fuel. So the thing I would want to know is what's your average fuel economy. I'd want to know how much you're idling. I would want to know how fast you're traveling down the highway. I would want to know what part of the country you're running, things like that. Because oftentimes guys are running wide open in their truck and they're getting 6 miles a gallon. And that's why they're not making the money they want to make. Also, they're idling the truck 24 hours a day. I would go to the Swift yards and I would see guys idling their trucks while they were inside the terminal taking a shower. Now, are there times you might have to do that? Yeah, if you've got a co-driver asleep in the truck and it's 100 degrees outside, maybe you got to idle the truck. If you have a small pet in the truck, maybe you've got to idle the truck. Things like that. But anytime you can cut your cost, it's going to benefit you. If you've got an APU, use it. You'd be surprised. You walk around the truck stop, how many people have APUs they aren't using? And it can save you a ton of fuel. As I'm sitting here doing this video, it's well, it's right around 100 degrees. I've got one thing says 93. I've got another that says 104. So it's high 90s, low hundreds, and I've got the APU going. I'm comfortable. You don't see sweat rolling off my face, and I'm saving fuel at the same time. Mileage is important, but on a sliding mileage pay scale like you're on, doing loads that are under 800 miles is where your money's going to be at. And so rather than doing one load that's 2,400 miles, I would try to do several loads that were 600 or 700 miles. Keeping your deadhead down is another important thing. And I realize it's hard to do. And I know you referenced that later in your email. I had 1 week that I had 400 and something miles of deadhead looking for an empty trailer, and it literally cost me $1,000. Instead of making 2,600 that week, I made 1,666, and this is while I was at Swift. I'm not referring to now. And he said, and he had to run that week to make that. The average has been $600 to $1,000. So if you're running slow, if you're controlling your idling, and your checks are that low, you may want to get your truck looked at, because you could have some mechanical issues that are making it not as efficient as it should be. Also, and I know this sounds like common sense, when you say you're taking home 600 to 1,000 a week, are you counting your advances in there? Remember, an advance is income that you just took early. So if you're making $800 a week, but you're taking 800 in advances, you're really making 1,600 a week. And so don't forget to count that in there. Also, how wisely are you buying your fuel? And I'm not putting anybody down here, but it can make several $100s a week difference how you buy your fuel. Getting that ES Advantage fuel card that's in the description of my video, I know during my time at Swift saved me about $1,300 a month. So you say, well, that's only $1,300. Well, that's a little over $300 a week. And so that's important as well. Let me bring up his comment. Okay, you're saying no advances. Okay. So it's not the advance thing. What kind of fuel economy are you getting? And keep in mind, you can't really go off the digital gauge. You really need to be tracking your fuel economy. The digital gauge can be off as much as 1 mile per gallon either way. So it could say 9 and you're really getting 8. It could say 9 and you're really getting 9.5 or 10. I suspect at your income level that you're getting around 6. I would also like to know how many miles a week they're giving you. I know you said they're down. He says, I even broke it down to my leader that at least 400 loaded miles a day, you needed at least 400 loaded miles a day to be profitable. I got to fight with them about that as well. I would encourage you on that to don't worry about your miles so much and worry about your daily revenue. And you really need around $900 to $1,000 a day of daily revenue. And then you're going to start to see things get a little better. I know a lot of guys will tell you to figure it weekly, but if you figure it daily, then if you take a 34-hour break, you know you got to make that money up. I got to fight with them about that as well. Refusing loads as I go along. And also the deadheading is ridiculous. 2 to 3 hours, 160 miles of deadheading is normal for these guys. I would say it's normal for a lot of places right now. When I was at DART, and this was what, 3 years ago, I would set my perimeters on the load board for 100 miles, and that meant I looked for loads that had less than 100 miles of deadhead. Now, because of the current market conditions, I'm setting those perimeters at 200, and sometimes I have to go over 200. Today, I had about 180 miles of deadhead, and like I said, it's just the tough times we're living in right now. Now, are there times that I pick up a load in the same day and have no deadhead? Absolutely. Are there times I have 15 or 20 miles of deadhead? Absolutely. But I do that wide dragnet search just because it's weird times we're living in right now. I explains these cut into my days and hours in order to get my minimum miles in. Well, what they do is when you're getting 90 cents a mile deadhead and you're getting $1.25 or $1.30 or whatever loaded, that's a big pay cut. And if you do that 400 miles a day, 400 times 30, that's, what is that? $120 that you've cost yourself that day. And so it can add up really, really quick. Now here's where I want to talk about some of the things that I saw that was wrong in this email. And I'm not picking on Eddie, and we're supposed to talk after the show as well. Eddie didn't say what his fuel economy was, but did say he was in a 2023 Freightliner. I had a 2020, what was it, a 2022 Freightliner when I was at Swift. And so they're very similar trucks. I would expect you to be able to generate similar numbers to what I did. He says he puts a chart up there that shows the sliding pay scale for Swift, which I'm very familiar with. He says, as you can see, the average rate is $1.83 up to 500 miles. Actually, that's not correct. The rate for up to 500 miles is $1.27, and he says that it's $1.40 plus the max of 43 cents a mile on the rebate. So automatically the numbers are off a little bit. From 351 miles to 500 miles is $1.27 a mile. If he's getting a fuel surcharge, which he called a rebate, and that may not be wrong because I think Swift calls it a rebate, but it's actually a fuel surcharge. He says it's a max of 43 cents. That's incorrect. It was in the 70s when I was there, and then it slowly started coming down. The fuel surcharge is based on the weekly national average of fuel, and it's actually in your contract. You can go look and see what it'll be each week, and so it's not a maximum of 43. That's what it is right now. It's down. Fuel has gone up tremendously this week, so even next week you should see your fuel surcharge starting to climb. But let's use his numbers. Let's say it's 43 cents a mile. You add that on to $1.27, and you are at $1.70 a mile. Now the thing, he may be on the ERF account. It is $1.40, and so if he's on the ERF account, then disregard what I said. He's getting $1.40 plus the 43. That would be the $1.83 a mile. Now, some things to keep in there. He's also getting paid for empty miles. When you're on the spot market, you have to figure that in your rate. He's also getting his tolls paid. So there are some advantages that make that $1.83 more than what it sounds like. To make the equivalent of what he makes on the spot market in an 80-20 split, I need to be at $1.20 a mile. I said the other day in a video, a dollar, or I mean, not $1.20, $2.20 a mile. I said in a video the other day, $2.10 a mile, but I wasn't thinking about tolls and some of the other things that Swift covers for you that makes it a better deal than what it sounds. So let's see here. Let's jump into a couple more questions and then we'll continue with his email. Vic says he would consider being a trainer at Swift. That's where you can make extra income in this economy. That's true. It takes a special person to train. Obviously, you're putting your life in their hands, as a lot of companies expect you to sleep behind that trainee soon after they start learning to drive. But if you've got the male fortitude for it or female fortitude for it, you could definitely make some extra money training. I know there's several guys that train over at Swift that does really well. You can also not make money at it, and it really depends how good of a trainee you get. It's kind of hit and miss. I can do that as well when the delivery window is off. Very difficult to make 800 for the day. Yeah, and but see, that's the other good thing about Swift is a lot of your stuff is drop and hook. And if it's got an open window, get it there as early as you can and grab another one. Also, good ETA and PTA times are important so the planners know when you're going to be ready for your next load. And I tell guys, if you don't put an accurate ETA or PTA, they don't have any idea that you need to do laundry after you finish this load, or that you need to get your truck serviced, or that you've got a girlfriend in that town and you want to stay there a couple of days. So they're going to try to book you a load, and then they're going to be mad when you're like, oh, I'm not going out till Monday. So just good communication can help you a lot as well. No Fear says they are trying to get him to come over as an owner operator. I had a lot of success there. I've heard guys say lately, guys in the know at Swift say that right now owner operators are having trouble getting more than 2,000 miles a week. And then that goes back to, and this is why I asked Eddie Moon how many miles a week he's getting. If you're getting, 2,000 miles a week, your check's going to be $600 or $700. I did the math in another video recently. So, I mean, this stuff's easy to figure. It's simple numbers. And so you have to keep that in mind. Don't let the pretty truck talk you into making a bad decision. The freight everywhere sucks. I generally agree with that statement. There's a lot of it, but most of it doesn't pay very well. All right, let's see. He says, Todd, is there something I'm missing here? I even asked if I can dispatch myself. They added me to their load board list, 60 drivers ahead of me, shaking my head. Well, let's talk about the Swift load board for a second. As you know, I beta tested it all but a month of the time I was there. And the thing about the load board is it's not really a financial advantage in that you're going to still get the same mileage pay you're getting right now. If you're saying that the reason you don't like Swift is because of the rates, if anything, it's worse because when they release it to the general public, they're saying they're not going to pay deadhead miles. And quite frankly, that was one of the most discouraging things I heard. And it was figured into the equation when I decided to leave Swift. Now, one thing it does do is a lot of times the planners, they don't start looking for a load for you until you're an hour away from your delivery, or sometimes till you're at your delivery. If you're on the load board, you can start looking for loads for yourself 3 days in advance. Now, it's a private load board, so there's nothing on it but the same old Swift freight that the planners see, only it's got less loads than what the planners see. So there's more loads that aren't on there. It's the 005 freight, which is solo over the road freight. So if you're a team, it doesn't benefit you. If you're a flatbed, it doesn't benefit you. And honestly, if you're a trainer, I mean, it might benefit you in the beginning because you could run a super solo with a trainee. But once your trainee got up to where you were running team freight, it wouldn't help you. So I think a lot of people, when it gets released to the masses, are going to be disappointed that it's not what they thought it was going to be. It doesn't have the load boards on it like what I'm running now. It's totally different, just Swift internal freight. Wesley says, I was at Swift with Todd. He's right. Get rid of super ego who runs illegal and freight rates will go up. Yeah, that's there's there's some purging of the industry that needs to go on. And back when Trucker CFO was still on here, that's something that he talked about, is that as bad as it sounds, some companies need to go out. There's and so we keep hearing truck shortage, but right now it seems like there's a truck overage. And I hate to see any company go under, but guys that aren't playing by the rules, that's not fair either. And I'm not saying Super Ego does or does not play by the rules, but we all know there's companies out there that are cheating. Yes, sir, we did. We had the same dispatcher at Swift. He's a good guy. All right, let's jump back into this email. I would love to know how these other owner operators who has been there for years tolerate the pay scale and the behavior of the company. They learn the system, and that's why I made so much money there. I knew how to do the system, and it's managing your cost. You have to run it like a business, and everybody wants to say it, but nobody wants to do it. It means working sometimes when you don't want to work. It means going to areas of the country that you don't want to go sometimes. It means, all kinds of things like that. It means driving your truck slow sometimes. And that's, I have a guy, good grief, people, no matter how many do not disturbs I turn on, one of my phones or one of my smartwatches will ring anyway. Anyway, it means running your truck like a business. It means getting out and doing the maintenance on your truck that you can do yourself. It means getting out in the cold weather and checking your tire pressures and things like that. And a lot of guys aren't wanting to do it, but you'll find the older guys, the guys that's been there for a while, they're taking care of their equipment. They're paying off multiple trucks. And so I know that's not what everybody wants to hear, but that's kind of what it is. Tell everyone to complain to Dad about them still allowing surge transport to post loads and being in bankruptcy. Um, yeah, that's not really my place to do. But you guys are welcome to contact Dat and talk to him about that. I think most guys that are pulling freight um, kind of know which brokerage companies they want to work with and which ones they don't. As I said, the company I'm with, he makes me run credit reports on them. So if they're shady, if they're not on the up and up, they're not going to pass the credit check. And those things kind of take care of themselves over time. I'm sure that Dat's aware of Surge's financial place in the market right now, and I'm sure they're evaluating if that's somebody they want to continue to deal with or not. Okay, here we go. Then this is going to solve our puzzle right here. You did 1912 loaded, 637 empty, and you did 1550 loaded and 250 empty the week before. So right here's your problem. You had almost right at 30% deadhead one week, which is it should be below 10. So your deadhead's 3 times what it should be, and your mileage is way too low. You need about another 600 miles a week. The week before, you also had about what is that? 25 or 30% deadhead, way high deadhead, and your miles are way too low. You need about 1,000 more miles that week. No matter how well you run your truck, you're not generating enough revenue. Um, so I bet if you look at your gross revenue for both of those weeks, it was below $3,000. And you're not going to make the kind of money you want to make like that. It may be that you need to switch dispatchers or get on a dedicated account, or something like that. He says, I've had it with these guys. I'm giving it 30 more days, 90 total, to see if something changes. If not, I will have to turn in the keys. If I'm missing or not doing something right, Todd, please advise. It would be greatly appreciated. P.S. I do like the setup of the company. It's just the rates and the planners that I have issue with. And again, I don't even know that it's the rates. I don't think you'll be successful in any lease purchase running below 2,000 miles a week with 30% deadhead. And so that's what's got to change. And maybe you need to, sit down with them, show them these numbers, and see what could be done. Maybe you need to do some dedicated stuff. I'll tell you something else you can do. If you're at a terminal and they're saying we don't have any loads, walk in there to the driver desk and ask them if they got any local stuff you can help with. And I know it's a pain in the butt to do local stuff. A lot of guys don't like doing it, but you do one or two local loads and suddenly you'll find yourself moving up the list and getting a good load. So just little things to try, and that way you're not sitting around the yard listening to a bunch of negative drivers discourage you. But I'm kind of surprised to hear you complain about the pay scale, because that's the one thing I always liked about Swift. When I'd go to the driver's lounges, I never heard anybody complaining about the pay scale. Now they'd complain about their truck breaking down. They'd complain about, not getting as many miles as they wanted, things like that. But nobody thought that the pay scale was underpaid. I had several people tell me I was getting screwed at Swift, and when we started comparing settlements, they found out real quick that they were the ones getting screwed. And so, again, this video is not really about Swift, and it's not really about, that kind of thing. But I just wanted you to know that, yeah, I see the problem now that I see your numbers. Got to get more miles and got to get that deadhead down. The problem is that a good percentage of the drivers from Yella are going to be applying at other companies. Maybe, yeah, that's true. A lot of them will. Some of them will get out of truck and they'll say, you know what? I've had enough of this. I'm going to go do something else. And but there's always people that are, changing professions, getting in and out of trucking, quitting companies. I hate to see anybody displaced. All of these bottom of the barrel companies that are having trouble hiring drivers will be approaching these guys trying to hire them. So I'm pretty sure most of them will land on their feet. But I think what the other guy was talking about were companies where they're like fixing their electronic logs and things like that. We need to eliminate the cheaters so that we're all playing on a level playing field. I can answer this one for you, Tom, because I worked there. He said earlier that he's getting 90 cents per mile for deadhead miles. Swift is a sliding mileage pay scale payer for over the road. They do have a couple of percentage contracts, but they are pretty awful. 99% of or not 99, a large percentage of the people there are on mileage pay. Blackbeard says needs to build relationships with planners. Yeah, that doesn't hurt. I had one in Phoenix that I regularly called, and one in Memphis that I called sometimes, and a lot of them knew me from the YouTube channel. And so I always got good stuff, and almost always got good stuff and did really well there. But I say at any new company, it takes you about 90 days to get in the groove. So he said he's going to quit in 30 days if it's not better. I'd ask him to stay another 90 days and give it time to see if he kind of figures out what's going on. But it sounds like his problem is he's not getting enough miles, and they're going to have to fix that or nothing else matters. I'm familiar with the practices. I did it for 10 years and decided to get out last year and sold my equipment. Went to Swift as a big brother guarantee for work. Yeah, I kind of did the same thing. I went to a large carrier when the market was down. The deal is, though, every company's a little different, and you have to develop a strategy for each company you go to based on how they pay and what they do. But there's not a lease purchase company in the country that you can run 30% deadhead and dry van, I'm talking, run 30% deadhead and less than 2,000 miles a week and make the kind of money you're wanting to make. They've got to get your revenue up. And it's not even about the mileage, it's about the revenue. You need to be 4,500 to 5,000 worth of revenue a week. And it doesn't sound like you're there. And you need a few weeks over 5,000. I was getting good miles at Swift too. But Wesley and I had the same dispatcher, and he was good. He kept us moving. I'm paid 2.5 for bobtail, 3 loaded, 3.5 overweight, oversized, all hub miles, not air miles, plus fuel surcharge. That can be good. That can be bad too, because if there's a detour, if you have to get off and go to the truck stop, some companies will complain because they're paying you on hub miles. Some of them will nitpick you to death over every mile too. But if you've got something you're happy doing, then good deal. Listening to Eddie's money, period. He needs to reject loads. Don't be afraid to say no. Well, he said he's rejecting loads, and that's why I brought up what I did about maybe being too picky. You got to be careful being too picky in this economy, because there's just not a lot out there, and you may have to sit for a while if you turn something down. Sometimes you will get a better load turning it down. In the words of the great philosopher Kenny Rogers, you got to know when to hold them, know when to fold them, know when to walk away, and know when to run. And the same is true in trucking, and knowing when to turn down freight and when to accept a load. But I want to show you something, because remember, Eddie was saying $1.83 a mile. And remember, they're paying his tolls, they're paying his base plates. A lot of his expenses are paid. I've said that to equal what he equals, I have to get $2.20 a mile off the load board. I'm going to go to a very large load board that you're all familiar with, if I said the name, and I'm going to look in Taylor, Pennsylvania for the day that that I'm supposed to be up there, and just read you the first freight rates that come up on the load board. The first one is decent. It's Manchester, Pennsylvania to Howell, New Jersey, $600 for 159 miles. So that's what, almost $4 a mile. But it's only 159 miles. You're going to chew up a day. And remember what I told him about wanting your average daily revenue to be around 900 to 1,000 a day at least. Those are minimums. So 600 a day, not quite cutting the mustard. Then they got one from Garfield, New Jersey to Spartanburg, South Carolina, $1.54 a mile. Let's go down to another one. Leola, Pennsylvania to Danville, Illinois, $1.25 a mile. Again, I'm not saying what load board it is, but this is a very common one you're all familiar with. Levittown, Pennsylvania to Villa Rica, Georgia, $1.52 a mile. And remember, I got to be above 220 to make what I was making at Swift. Mechanicsburg, Pennsylvania to Jacksonville, Florida. And I'm not skipping around. I'm going straight to the next one that shows the mileage rate on there. Started with the newest. So these are loads that just posted. This one posted 2 minutes ago. Mechanicsburg, Pennsylvania, Jacksonville, Florida, $1.47 a mile. And remember, you are going to take a bath coming out of Florida. Another one, Baldwinsville, New York, Edwardsville, Illinois, $1.16 a mile. Here's your one. These do pay good. Baldwinsville, New York to the Bronx, New York, $3 a mile, $800. But it's 148 miles of deadhead. So you add 148 to the 267 loaded. That's 417, something like that. Now you're at less than $2 a mile when you figure in your deadhead. And a lot of guys don't figure in their deadhead. and that can be problematic. Here's another one: New Jersey to Ohio, $1.28 a mile. New Jersey, Missouri, $1.28 a mile. Pennsylvania to Indiana, $1.38 a mile. Pennsylvania to North Carolina, $1.66 a mile. Watkins Glen, New York to Westfield, Indiana, $1.57 a mile. So you can see here, it's not all roses and rainbows on the spot market side either. Now there are some good ones in here, but you got to fight for them, and they're not easy to come by. So I just wanted to kind of show that to you guys to get you a reality check. Now, as somebody mentioned earlier, Blackbeard mentioned about building relationships. If you build relationships with these planners, you give them good service, then they might call you before they post a load and say, "Hey, we got a really good one. We know you're in the area," and offer you stuff prior to it going on the load board. That's really what you're going to have happen in this market to be super, super successful. Now, I'm making money. Don't want anybody on here to think I'm not, but I've just got too much debt and it's killing me. And I'll be honest with you, there's a moderate chance I could fail. I'm fighting as hard as I can, doing the best I can, but nobody is above risk, and even the best of us can fail. So it's very possible that one of these weeks I come on here and I say, I lost my truck. I didn't make it. Fortunately, I've got a owner of a company that's working with me, trying to help me, but I ain't gonna lie, it's tough right now. My check for tomorrow was like $138, if that tells you something. And it was a short trip. I don't want to mislead anybody. It had some deductions on it, things like that. But not every check is $3,000. The Teamsters won the battle but lost the war on yellow. Yeah, I agree with that. It You have to know when it's a good time to negotiate, and when you have leverage and when they have leverage. And they tried to hit when they shouldn't have been hitting. Hey, Russell, thanks for being here. Wesley has some good advice for Eddie. Talk to your dispatcher and your planner. Sounds like it's not a good time to lease a truck. Well, and this is not directed at Eddie, but it's directed to some people that have contacted me recently. It's never a good time if you don't do your homework and you don't know what you're getting yourself into. I had a guy contact me a few weeks ago. He said, I'm starting Swift tomorrow. Do they pay mileage or percentage? And I thought, you're going to be at orientation tomorrow and you don't even know how you're getting paid. Well, that tells me a lot right there. It tells me he hasn't ran his numbers. He doesn't know what he's getting himself into. Shoot, there was guys on another YouTube channel I was watching that had their truck for 6 months that were asking the host of that show if they were in an MRP lease or a straight lease. They hadn't even read their contract. And so if you're not prepared for what you're getting yourself into, if you don't know what you're walking into, then there's never a good time to lease a truck. Now, I believe what I'm doing now, buying a truck, I believe that is the ultimate best option. But if I lost this truck, I'd go do a lease purchase somewhere. If the guy I work for had a truck to lease, I'd probably do it with him. At this point, he does not. So it would probably make for a weird situation. But yeah, that's what it is. And if you're not getting the miles, you got to realize that and get a hold of somebody and rattle a few cages in a tactful way and start getting those miles. But his numbers are all out of whack. Going back to Eddie, you can have 30% deadhead. The deadhead comes from the planners sending me to dead areas with no work coming out of there, and then sitting for a day and a half, and then finally sending you 3 hours away to pick up a load. Okay, I would disagree with this comment too. The planners aren't sending you anywhere. They're offering you loads and you're accepting them. If it doesn't make sense to do it, don't do it. As I remember what I said at the start of the video, they've got 200 or 300 loads they're trying to cover, and they're not thinking about what's best for you. You've got to think about what's best for you. And sometimes it might make sense to deadhead that far, and sometimes it don't. But they're not sending you to dead areas. In this day and age with the internet, you can get on freight waves, you can look at market reports, and you can know if the load is going to put you in a good area or a bad area. And you can tell them, hey, I don't mind taking that load, but I'm going to need you to stack me with something out of there because I don't want to get stuck there. And I did it to them all the time in Southern California. They'd send me a load to Southern California, and I would say, I'll be happy to go to Southern California as long as you can stack me with something coming out of there. Oh, well, we can't do that. Another department handles loads coming out of Southern California. Fine, call them and get a load from them and stack me with something coming out of Southern California, and I'll go there. Otherwise, I'm not going to Southern California. And 9 times out of 10, they'd say, well, we'll just find you another load. And 30 minutes later, I'd have another load. But I saved myself from going to Southern California and sitting there for 3 days. When they tell you you're the captain of your ship, that's what it is. They're not sending you anywhere. They're not giving you anything. They're offering you stuff, and you have to make the decision if that's something you want to do or don't want to do. I settle out every day. I only get enough fuel to do the load, and that's it. That's a strategy I used for a lot of years when I was at Dart, because Dart paid after every load. This time, since I'm self-dispatching myself and I get paid after every load, I'm doing it a little differently. I'm buying it where I can get it the cheapest possible, even if it spills over to the next load, because I figure over the course of a 30-day month, it'll equal out with me saving money on fuel. Also, think about it from a logbook standpoint. If you're stopping to buy 50 gallons or 75 gallons every day, you're burning up a lot more of your logbook time as well. So I buy strategically based on where I'm at, where I'm going, where I think I'm going next, things like that. I make 3,200 take home every 6 days. That's pretty good. What kind of freight are you hauling? Are you doing dry van, reefer, step deck? What are you doing? Because, a lot of people have a tendency to compare one style of trucking with another style of trucking, and you have to compare apples to apples. The problem is that you will spend all day getting into and out of New York City on that one plus those. Yep, I agree with you, Tom, completely. I've never been sold on the Northeast, even though I'm heading up there now. But the goal is to go back to the Midwest or down to the Southeast. You get a good rate, but then between toll roads and the expensive fuel and all of that, I mean, even with my discount, a lot of the fuel in the Northeast is over $4 a gallon. And I'm talking about on the company fuel card. So uh, it's I know a lot of people do it, and a lot of people are successful up there. I've just never been sold on living up there. I go sometimes, but it's in and out as quickly as I can. I make $1.52 a mile with the fuel surcharge. Okay, so I'm not sure how you're taking home, Russell, unless you're running team, how you're taking home 3,200 a week at $1.52 a mile. You would have to be grossing about 6,500 a week. And I got the old calculator here. Take the calculator. 6,500 divided by 1.52. You'd have to be running 4,276 miles a week. Now, I have done that when I worked at Roadrunner, but it's tough to do week in and week out. I'd be curious to know a little bit more about how you're doing it, Russell. Not saying you're not, because you can run 4,200 miles a week, especially if you're doing LTL freight, terminal to terminal. But it's tough if you're doing live loads and live unloads in there as well. So I liked it. I only got to look at it briefly. I got in that bad storm and everything. I sent it over to the owner of the company that I work at, and he's reviewing it and supposed to get back to me in a few days. And but I never could get it to fully work in a way where I could truly inspect it. But I don't mind taking a look at another load board option. Um, I find that I always end up with about 5 or 6 that I really like going to most of the time. But I'm working on building relationships with brokers and stuff to where I don't have to be on load boards forever. And I've got some contacts in West Texas, and hopefully I can start use those pretty soon as well. Yeah, I got it was per mile. This is a good time to be a company driver at a solid company. We are 30 weeks into the year, and I'm at basically almost 65,000. That's not bad, Tom. I, you know, I think it's always a good time to be a company driver. It's a lot less risk. It's a lot less stress, a lot less headaches. I like the freedom. I like to be in control of the maintenance and things like that. I like being in control of my home time, my off time, and but never say never. There could always be a time in my life where I have to go back to company driving. I hope not. My goal would be to stay here and do this, what I'm doing right now for many years to come. I've got a pretty gravy deal right now, but it's just, can I survive? There's an episode in the old Star Trek from the '60s where Captain Kirk and McCoy are inside the ship, and Spock is outside, and a lizard man is trying to get Spock, and Spock's trying to build a weapon to kill the lizard man. And uh, McCoy, or no, Kirk asks McCoy, "Is Spock going to be able to do it?" And McCoy says, "If he has the time." And that's the position I'm in right now. The lizard man of debt is trying to get me right now. And can I make the weapon to kill the lizard man, the debt in my life? Yeah, I'm slowly building the weapon, but the question is, can I build it before the lizard man gets me? And some of that is in my hands, running the truck efficiently, taking care of the equipment, things like that. Some of it's in the market's hand, depends on what freight rates do, things like that. And some of it's totally out of my hands. If I had a major breakdown that took several weeks to fix, it might be enough to sink my battleship. So, yeah, the real question is, do I have the time? Russell says he's at 100K for a year. So that answers another question that a lot of guys have. Can I make more money doing a lease purchase as an owner operator? Maybe. That's what I always say. Never do it for the money, because Russell's has made roughly 35,000 more than Tom has. However, we don't know what home time's been like. Has Tom gone home a lot more than Russell? Is Russell one of these road warriors that stays out months at a time? We don't know that. We also don't know what Russell's tax liability is. Um, is Russell going to give 30% of that away to taxes? And of course, we don't know what's going to happen this last 6 months. Tom's going to keep working for a good company that he's happy with. Russell's got his truck, but if he has truck problems, his income could go down drastically, and Tom could end up making more. No Fear wants to know about reefer freight. If any of you are in the reefer field and want to talk about it, I hadn't pulled reefer in a few years, so I'll defer that question to the viewers. If any of y'all want to comment on reefer freight, the last market report I saw said Reefer rates were kind of flat right now. Flatbed rates were down a little bit and dry van rates were up. I would say this week it seems like dry van rates have gone down a little again, but that stuff is constantly changing. Russell, that's the wrong fuel strategy. Buy the fuel when it's cheap and fill everything. Fill both tanks, your bucket, your pockets too. That fuel is still yours next week. Yeah, that's the philosophy I have now, Tom. Maybe not always filling up, though. It really depends uh, on the weight of the load. There's a lot of factors. If I'm on my way home, I don't want to go home with full tanks because, you know, that's temptation for people to siphon your tanks. They have had a lot of diesel fuel thefts lately. And so, yeah, but generally, I agree with what Tom said about get you an app that checks your entire route and buy it in the cheapest places. And then if you know where your next load's going after that, look and see. Maybe you want to hold off on buying fuel to your next load, or maybe you want to get 25 gallons on this load and then fill up on your next load when you're in a cheaper state. But always buy in the cheapest states you can, or at least that's my philosophy. Somebody will make a YouTube video and say I'm stupid and I don't know what I'm talking about and all of that, and that's fine. But that's how I do it. But when I was at Dart, I did it your way. I'd get just enough to do each load. Nope, it works for me and I profit off of it. I get paid every day. Okay, to each their own. Like I say on here, if you're happy doing what you're doing, then keep doing it. But if you'd like to make a little more, if if you're not completely satisfied, then try some of the suggestions on here. If they don't work, you can always go back to your old way. If Eddie's on the ERF contract, there's more deadhead versus OTR. 20 to 30% is normal. I'm still profitable even with low freight this year. Yeah, that's a good point. If he's on ERF, they do. I've talked to several people that say the deadhead is higher, but still, that 1,900 miles a week, 1,500 miles a week, he's not going to get the revenue he needs to get to be where he wants to be. I mean, if he's making 800 to 1,600 a week at those numbers, then I'd be real content with that because he's not really working that hard, to be honest. And I think I'd be looking at going back OTR to get more revenue, or I'd be talking to somebody about how can we make this ERF more profitable. I only fill my tanks when my load is 900 or more. My truck burns fuel super slow on TA fuel. I actually asked a guy about this the other day because there's a lot of people that say that TA Petro fuel gets better fuel economy. And this guy had talked to a tanker driver, and he basically said that all fuel comes from the same places, and that they might have their own additive that they put in it, but that for the most part that it's just luck of the draw. That he said you might get a bad tank somewhere occasionally, and I always worry about that when I go to mom and pop places. But he said that for the most part, there's not much difference between the fuel, that it all comes from the same refineries. Cheaper fuel fill up, expensive fuel. I get what you need to find. Yep. That's Tim Back is doing what they call strategic fuel, and that's the same thing I do, and the same thing that Tom Bell suggests as well. OTR Vic, the numbers don't add up, Russell. Yeah, I was thinking the same thing, but you know, I would like to see it. Maybe he does. I think he's probably talking gross and saying net, because he's saying here he makes 600 to 800 a day, and if you run those numbers, to make 800 a day at $1.52 a mile, it shows 526 miles. But keep in mind, He's saying net, so that's after all his expenses. Typically, your expenses are about double everything usually. So he would have to be running over 1,000 miles a day, right at about 1,100 miles a day, to have a shot at making what he's saying uh, that he makes every day. I think he's meaning gross and saying net. Yeah, see, the numbers aren't matching up, Russell. 600 a day every day for 6 days, 3,600 a week. That's got to be gross. Absolutely, I agree. I started doing that. My leader is great. She does her best, but you have to keep in mind she has 20 other drivers to deal with. Yeah, yeah. Okay, so here's a great example. Now you've got your miles back up after you talk to her. I think you're going to like this week's check a lot better. And your deadhead's down too. Your deadhead this week is around 20%. So you're coming back in line with what we would call averages, market averages right now. It used to be 10%. Right now, 20 is not crazy. So, yeah, I think you're going to have a lot better week this week, Eddie. Well, I think I figured it out a minute ago. To do what you say you're doing, you'd have to be over 4,200 miles a week. You'd have to be almost exclusively dropping hook, or they'd have to be fixing your logs because you do, say, 10-minute pre trip, 10-minute post trip, 10-minute fuel, and that's 30 minutes a day out of your deal. And then even your dropping hooks, you do 30 minutes dropping hook at each place. And I know what you're going to say. Well, I only log 6 minutes dropping hook. You can do that for a while till the right DOT guy catches you. You really need to start logging it like you drive it. But if you're doing it, good for you, man. I just it. I got a lot of questions like, what kind of trailer are you pulling? This week is still open, a lot of sitting because of refusals. It will be a soft week. Well, and I'll tell you too, if you get the reputation of being a difficult guy that turns down everything he sees, especially in this market, you will get backburnered. Make sure if you're turning down a load that you're giving them a good reason. Don't just, well, because I don't want to. Um, like I said, right now, I did a load the other day that had what, 4 or 5 stops on it. And it's first time in 27 years I've ever done that. I don't do multi-stop loads, but with the market like it is right now, I'm having to do things that I normally wouldn't do. Wesley agrees with me that Eddie's empty miles are killing him. My company tried to strong arm me with a short mile load period. I waited a day period. Now I'm on a load with 2,300 miles. Yeah, yeah. And I think it's important to point out Robbie does not work for Swift, so we're not talking about Swift exclusively here. Um, what I would say about short loads, and this does apply to Eddie, the reason companies will put short loads on you in this market is because short loads generally pay more. And so while they pay you less, even if they give you a little more per mile, you're still making less. And it makes the company more money. So it's a band-aid way for the company to keep above water. And it's okay to do some of those. You've got to do some of them. You need to be a team player, help the company out. But you got to make sure that at the end of the week, you're sitting at $4,500 or $5,000 worth of revenue. When you're with a good company, you still get to pick the loads and get good home time. I understand the freedom of a lease, but I like not worrying about paying for the truck or for the repairs. Yeah, there's pros and cons to both. I agree with you. Um, and I've worked for good companies like you're talking about. And like I said, if the walls came crashing down on me and I didn't have any other choice, I might go back to them again. But it's it's nice to have your own truck. I had a lot of pride when I had that Volvo paid off, title in hand, and I've had some other trucks like that. It there's some pride there and a feeling of accomplishment. But I mean, there's some pride in what you're doing too, being able to take a week vacation and not having to worry about the truck. Having a truck's like having a kid. You have to, even when I'm off, I have to worry about it, go check on it. And a lot of times when you're a company driver, last company driver job I had, I dropped it at the yard. They did all the maintenance on my off time. I didn't have to worry about it. I came back after my time off, hopped in the truck, and away I went. Stopped. He told us where to fuel, stopped, filled up, did my run. Didn't have to worry about fuel prices or none of that. So I don't ever encourage anybody to become an owner operator. And I definitely try to discourage them if they say they're doing it because they want to make more money. And so I don't know why that phone keeps ringing when I got do not disturb on. And I've got all the lines muted. Somehow it's getting through. But yeah, that's what I'd say about that. Let's keep going. Dropping hooks all the time would be ideal, but the live load and unloads kills it a lot. Well, and I would tell you, there's a host of reasons for that, but yeah, that's kind of where it's at right now. Things are going to get better though. We just got to hang in there. And I'm sorry for all the distractions that are throwing me off. Eddie, start looking for a new company before you lose more money. I don't know if he's there at that point yet. He's only been there 60 days. I think you're in the point where you start having some serious conversations with them though and say, hey, it's got to get better. This isn't what I signed up for. And maybe get off that ERF account and go over the road. And I think you'll see some improvements then too. Um, Swift used to have a deal they put out, and this has been 20 something years ago. And it said something like, and this was back then, costs you $25,000 every time you switch a trucking company. And it went through all the expenses you incur, the time off work, all of that. And so I would say be reluctant to change companies until you're sure that you've exhausted all the efforts you can to fix everything. And, he may work there another 60, 90 days and he may decide, yeah, he needs to leave, but he really needs to explore all the avenues. And that's part of why I showed the load board stuff tonight and have done this video is I just want to explain to everybody the grass is not always greener on the other side of the fence. And sometimes it's only greener because it's fertilized with manure. Sometimes you have to take a bad load or a nonprofit load to get you to a better freight lane. You got to learn the lanes. Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And that's why I took issue with his comment about they sent me here, they sent me there, uh, they sent me to a dead area. You really should know where the dead areas are, especially he said he'd been driving for 3 decades. So he's been driving about as long as I have. You kind of got to know where to go, where not to go. And if they're going to send you there, sometimes you take it to help them out. They say, hey, we need a hand. All right. How are we going to get me out of there? Can we stack me with something that gets me right out of there? What's our plan to get me out of there? It's real nerve-wracking to do that the first couple of times you do it, but after you get to where you've done it a few times, you're comfortable talking like that. And it's not confrontational or mean. It's just, I need to see the playbook. I need to know how we're going to do this. Hey, the right way to truck. Thank you for being here. Better late than never. Think about it. There's so many pipelines. They all get the same fuel. Yeah, that's kind of my thinking too. And there's only so many refineries. I forget how many refineries are in the United States, but it's not that many. It's like 8 or 10 refineries. And so all of the fuel comes from there. Now Texaco may add their own additive, Valero may add their own additive, but the base fuel is all coming from the same place. Now, If you go to a mom and pop place that doesn't sell a lot of fuel, you may get some old fuel and you may see uh, some decline in fuel economy there. If you get some fuel that has ethanol in it, you will definitely see some fuel economy decline there. So, rule of thumb: the less ethanol that's in your fuel, the better off you're going to be for power and fuel economy. Hey Todd, does your radio screen reboot if you hit a hard bump? Hadn't had that happen. Sometimes it'll say the launcher quit working, and I'll have to hit OK and it'll reboot. But it's been doing pretty good so far. Russell says his truck payment is $2K a month at $97 a day. Okay, let's look at that. See, Russell, some of these numbers aren't adding up because I took $97 a day and I multiplied it by 30 and I got 29.10. So we're pretty far off on numbers. If your truck payment is 2,000 a month divided by 30, or you could even do it by 28 if you wanted to, you'd be at like $66.67 a day. So I'm not saying you're lying. I'm not saying anything like that, but I'm thinking some of your numbers is off a little bit. Nope, gross is 1,500 a load. That's after all my expenses come out. That's what I get to the bank. Well, I'm definitely curious then, Russell. Email me the details on it and I'll take a look at it, and I may even make a video about it because I don't see it. Maybe I'm missing something. Maybe when you send me more information on it, I'll see it. But right now, I just don't see it. You're getting 1,500 a load at $1.52 a mile. That's basically 1,000 miles a day, and you're solo. So I'm not seeing how you're getting 1,000. I mean, the numbers aren't adding up. I can't make the numbers work. Blackbeard, I'm very familiar with the money making lanes. However, having to repeat and remind planners of where I want to run and don't want to run, you get labeled as picky and difficult. Yeah, and that may be what's going on with you, Eddie. You may be getting blackballed because you are coming across as difficult. Uh, I met a driver at DART that had, I think it was 28 states he wouldn't go to, and he wanted every weekend off. And they were trying their best to accommodate him, but a lot of times they didn't have nothing that worked for him. And also, his religion required him to stop 5 times a day and pray, so he could only run, I think he said 350 or 400 miles a day. So the pickier you get, the more requirements you have about what you'll do, what you won't do, where you will go, where you won't go. They're going to try to appease you, but it's going to be harder and harder to do. If there's any way you could be a little more open-minded in this freight market, I think it would help you a lot. And I was under the impression on the ERF board that you couldn't turn down loads, but I guess they've changed that. I think if you're in a lease and your payments are extremely high, you will not make it. My fixed cost for the truck and trailer. Yeah, definitely. Well, what it does, like, and I get asked this question a lot: can I make it on an SFI lease at 13 or 1,400 a week? And the truth is, yeah, you probably can make it until something happens in your family and you need 2 weeks off. Your new truck breaks down and the trucks are on back order for 3 weeks. Then you're so far behind that you're begging the finance company to defer some payments or not. And if they do, great, you're still okay. If they don't, then you're behind the 8 ball and it could take you months to get out of the hole. And it sinks a lot of people. The lower you can have your overhead, that's why I wanted to run that Volvo so bad, is the lower your overhead is, the easier it is to stay above water. Eddie, do you call Coretta, the OTR planner out of Memphis? Talk to her and she will work with your lanes. I don't know if he can because she's an OTR planner and he's on the ERF board. So I'm not sure if he can. Well, he said absolutely he can. So far this year, I've worked 154 days, home 36 days, 18 on the road resets paid. There you go. So, I mean, Tom's making a really good argument here that he has a good work-life balance, a quality of life. He's getting home. He's not killing himself on the road. And now we would have to compare that to the other guy's numbers of how often he's going home. He's making 35,000 a year more, but how much harder is he working to get that 35,000? And I don't know the answer to that question. Maybe he's working less, but uh, everybody always says, they'll call me, I want to do a lease purchase. I always ask why, and about half of them say, I want to make more money. As soon as I hear that, I start trying to talk them out of it because there's no guarantee you're going to make more money. You probably will, but you might not. You could lose everything. And you have to realize that and be willing to take that risk. I'm leaving this company I'm at, probably going to a guy with 4 trucks pulling reefer, and he's a driver himself. That sounds very similar to the company where I'm at now, no fear. He's got 5 drivers and he's about to add a 6th one. On that Volvo you bought with this age, are you able to do a Carfax type report before buying it? Yeah, you can do a rig dig. I didn't do one because I bought it from a viewer that I was really good friends with, and I knew buying it needed some work. And I brought it back to Texas and took a couple of months and fixed it up and then went out and totaled it. And man, it makes me sick to think about it, but that truck's gone and it won't ever be back. But for guys that are wanting to buy their own truck, I usually try to mention this in every video. Down in the ticker, there's a lot of great information. You can contact Avery, and he can help you get a truck in a lease purchase type situation, but you're not tied to any company. You can work where you want to, move it to another company, and the title's actually in your name. So if you're in the market for a truck, check that out. Speaking of checking things out, check my website out, truckertodd.net. Or email me at todd@truckertodd.net. You can look in the description of this video. You can see all the social media platforms I'm on. Join me there. Give me a thumbs up, subscribe, share this video out. Tell your friends about the Tuesday and Thursday lives at 5 p.m. Central. And let's really grow this thing. We're passing out a lot of good information tonight. I think we're all learning something and we're all benefiting from it. Let's just keep it going and try to help each other instead of trying to constantly tear each other down. Yep, I always liked Jerry in Phoenix. I called Jerry a lot and had good luck with him. Am I back now or am I still froze? So far, this is the only comment saying I froze, so it may have been something on your end, Wesley, if nobody else is noticing it. Good evening, Shane Lee. Thank you for being there. Or being here. Stay there, Eddie, and work it out. Things will work out. Yeah, that would be my advice, at least for now. Now, there may come a point where you got to leave, where financially you can't afford another day, but they're listening to him because his miles have already come up this week. And I don't think you quit a company while they're still trying to work with you. Now, if he calls them and says, hey, I'm not getting the miles, and they say, well, if you don't like it, hit the road, then maybe it's time to start looking. But shoot, his miles went up 600 or 700 miles this week. So that tells me they're trying to make things better and they like him and they want him to stay. So when I was at F2F, they had some customer freight. This guy, I pulled one load that would be considered, actually, yeah, I pulled one load for him that would be what I would consider customer freight. It's not on any load boards. It's a customer that he has a real good relationship with, and they just call him and tell him what they got. But I'd say 99% of my stuff is load board broker type stuff. For now, anyway. I had to leave because I had medical problems. Todd knows about them, or I would have never left. Truck driving is easy when everybody makes $5 a mile. That's true. That's true. It's weeding out the men from the boys right now, and I may be one of the boys that get weeded out. I'm like I said, I'm hanging in there, but it's a week to week type deal for sure. If I had turned down more loads at Christensen, I might have made more money, but I wanted to be a solid team player. I was only netting 1,600 a week average. Yeah, and there was a time in lease purchase where 1,600 a week was considered pretty good. Nowadays, that's a little on the low side. I think you want to be in the 22 to 2,800 range. And I know some people over at Christensen. They're good people, but maybe some of their pay stuff needs to change a little bit. According to the witch in the tube, there are 129 refineries. Wow, wow. I don't know where I got that 8 or 9 from then. I guess I'm wrong about that. I was thinking maybe I'm thinking of the major ones and not the smaller ones. But still, of those 129 refineries, just a handful of companies own them, though, right? So they're all still pumping out the same basic stuff. And how many of those 129 are diesel refineries, and how many of them are gas refineries or kerosene or something else? Is his truck payments around 500 a week? I was looking back up because I thought earlier you said that your truck payment was different than that. Either way, if you'll send me all the details, I'll sure take a look at it. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking that he's confused on some of the definitions, but maybe not. So me and Gary's at about the same place. My truck payment is $695, but I only pay $125 a week for my trailer. So he's got slightly cheaper expenses than me. Of course, we'd have to compare insurance and everything else to know completely, but it doesn't sound like Gary has a terrible deal for sure. I run 655 to 684 miles per day. I take 600 out of the Hey, Speed Shifter, thanks for being here. Hey, my good friend John, too. He finally made it in. Glad you're here. This is good advice. Whether you're a company driver or lease operator or owner operator, spreadsheet everything. I'm guilty. I don't have a spreadsheet yet. I'm not real good with spreadsheets. I've got to watch some YouTube videos and educate myself on that. And then that's something I want to do sometime soon. Tim and John saying hi to each other. The KW is good now. Finally got all the bugs out of it. It's doing good. Okay, Wesley says it froze on his end. So far, you're the only one saying that. So it could have been something with your phone or with your internet. I'm out of the Atlanta terminal. I don't believe you can jump ship to another planner at another terminal. I vibe with my leader. It's when she's not around that I have to deal with other planners. Well, I can tell you, you can switch terminals. I did that. When I started, I had a planner out of Greer, or I mean a OOC out of Greer. and I moved to one in Oklahoma City. They won't just do it on a whim, but if you have a good reason, you can switch terminals and OOCs. And it's not as difficult as you might think to do either. If that's the case, then, and again, it's going to sound like I'm picking on you. Um, Try to find some that you work well with, that you communicate well with. If you're saying that every single planner you talk to, you're having an issue with, then analyze how you're talking to them, what approach you're using, and seeing if you can make some small changes to improve those relationships. Woo wee, you guys got me going tonight. I checked the truck Wednesday, hired a mechanic, best 250 ever spent. Knocked 4,000 down on that truck. I get the truck for 66K. And oh yeah, no problem. Glad we could save you some money. Most of the refineries are small, really small, according to. I don't know. I've seen some of them. I've seen are pretty big. It just it depends when and where they are. I've never done a lot of research on it, but if that's something you guys are interested in, I can look into it and put a video out. Travis Jones says, great show, Todd. Extremely informative. Well, I appreciate that, man. Thank you for being here. I appreciate you giving me your time. But yeah, let's do that again real quick, just so you know I didn't fix anything. Let's see here. Let's go back to that same load board and let's pull the most recent ones. On that same load board, I'm not saying who it is, I'm just saying a very large, well-known load board for the area that I'm delivering to on the first. Pennsylvania, this one went up 1 minute ago. Pennsylvania to Florida, $1.47 a mile. Baldwinsville, New York to Edwardsville, Illinois, $1.16 a mile. Let's see what else we got. Let's find another one. New Jersey to Ohio, $1.28 a mile. New Jersey to Illinois, $1.45 a mile. Pennsylvania to South Carolina, $1.21 a mile. Pennsylvania to North Carolina, $1.66. Another one to North Carolina, $1.55, $1.66. And remember, I've got to be above 220 to make what that guy Eddie makes at Swift right now. So grass isn't always greener. Now, sometimes I get good loads and make more than what he does? Yeah. But you don't do what I'm doing just because of the money. And that's the point I'm trying to make in this video. I'm not saying, oh, poor me, look how bad it is. And I'm not saying, oh, poor Eddie, look how bad Eddie's got it. There's pros and cons to both sides. Here's one I'd hate to do. New Jersey to Massachusetts. It's just over $3. Oh, it's just under $3 a mile. Let's see. There's a few decent ones. Delaware to New York for $2.75 a mile, which to me is not a great rate because of all the added overhead up there. New Jersey to Missouri, $1.45 a mile. Just it's not. Here's one, New York to Minnesota, $1.36 a mile. Missouri, New York to Missouri, $1.28 a mile. New Jersey, South Carolina, $1.43 a mile. You can see. Now let's go to another well-known load board. Let's see what it looks like. Same area for those dates. They're not even putting rates on this one. They're just wanting you to bid on everything. So you're not going to get the answers you want there. I'm scrolling through to see. Nothing on there. They didn't have any rates on. Let's go to another one. People always say, are you on this load board? And I'm looking right now. Let's move it up to the dates I'll be there. Now, people say there's no freight. It shows there's 327 loads available right now. And this is for the 1st of August, so there will be more stuff pop up. First one pops up to Kentucky, $1.56 a mile. Next one, $1.40 a mile. The next one, 2-load bundle, $2.06 a mile. South Carolina, $2 a mile, $1.53, $1.44. Going to Maine for $2.30 a mile. Maine's a lot like Florida. You can go there for a decent rate, but sometimes you can get stuck up there, or you have to deadhead a long ways to get another load. Let's skip those 2-load bundle ones. Here's a 200-mile load for $3.06 a mile. A Florida load for $1.64, which is awful. Georgia load $1.27 a mile. And so I think you guys can see here that there are some good ones, but there's a lot of bad ones in here too. And so when your dispatcher says there's no freight, that's not true. Now, there may not be any good freight. There is freight out there. And if people will quit taking this crappy freight, it'll become good freight again. But they're not going to pay you $3 a mile when a guy's willing to haul it for $1.20 a mile or $1.40 a mile. And that's what you got to keep in mind. If you could get me to paint your house for $1,000, why would you pay me $5,000 to paint your house? And that's the same way the brokers are looking at it. As long as there's guys willing to do something for nothing, why pay for it? And I know it's just the way it is. We're in a bad market right now, and everybody is trying to find their way through it. So occasionally I will see a Canadian load on there. Not a lot, because the company I work for, he doesn't want us going to Canada, Oregon, or California. And so some of the brokers that naturally have Canada filtered out. So yeah, I don't see a lot, but I don't have a passport anyway, so I don't have any desire to go to Canada. But I may one day go up there again if I'm working for somewhere where I can and I get a passport. Drivers can't quit taking the low paying freight. If they do, they lose their trucks. They look at it the same as money beats no money. See, but that's the philosophy that's killing things, because they say, if I don't take this $1.20 a mile load, I'm going to lose my truck. Well, you're going to lose it anyway pulling $1.20 a mile freight, because you're not making any money. You're just prolonging the inevitable until your truck breaks down and you can't afford to fix it, or you can't make your truck payments or something. I mean, there's loads on there. I can show you there's loads on there for 80 cents a mile. You're losing money at 80 cents a mile, but yet people are hauling it. People are bidding it that way. And it's because they don't know their numbers. They're thinking like what you're saying here. Well, no money or a little money is better than no money. And actually, it's not. It's cheaper in some cases for you to park your truck at a truck stop than it is for you to pull freight at a loss. You just got to be patient and wait for better paying loads. And sometimes you are going to have to take one. I took one the other day. It's $1.58 a mile, and I was sour about it, but I still made money on it, and I lived to fight another day. So sometimes you do have to take loads like that. But when you start getting down in the $1.20 range, and you give 20% of that away to whoever you're leased on to, and now you're at $1 a mile, and it costs you $1.10 or $1.15 a mile to operate your truck, you're you're going to lose money either way. You might as well save the wear and tear on your truck. My good friend Robbie Ross with the $5 donation. Thank you, my friend. Very informative tonight. Finally got out of the oven. Look for Dallas Cowboys to be playing in Vegas on February 24th. I'd like to correct that comment. What he meant to say was he looks for the Cowboys to be winning in Vegas on February 24th. And I agree with that statement. Good advice, Todd. However, not much conversing with planners. Everything is texting and corresponding when loads are assigned, but good advice. No, now on your dispatches, if you look at the bottom of it, it'll have a name and phone number. That's the planner that planned you on that load. You can call them directly and talk to them. And I had a little notebook, and the good ones that I liked, that I had good experiences with, I wrote their name down and what region they were in. And next time I was in that region, I called them and I'd be like, hey, I can't remember her name. I think her name was Linda. Say, hey, Linda, I'm back in your, or I'm going to be in your area on Thursday. You might remember we worked together on this other load. She said, oh, yeah. Hi, Trucker Todd. How are you? Oh, I'm doing great. Hey, if you see anything pop up in your area that you think would be a good fit for me, would you give me a call or at least keep me in mind? Sure, Todd. I'll look right now. And a lot of times I'd get something. That's what you got to do in a Swift type situation. It's and it's a little bit of a hassle. When you stop at a rest area to go to the bathroom after you get done, just whip out your notepad and call the planner that you know in that region and tell them what you're looking for. And if they're nice, if you like them, if they like you, you may want to write their name and number down and talk to them again in the future. And, I had some critics tell me, oh, well, you're kissing butt. No, I'm not kissing butt. I'm having the same conversation with them that I have with you guys when you call me. I'm generally in a good mood, try to get you laughing. We talk about your problem, we try to fix it. And same thing, I call the planner, uh, get them laughing, talk about my problem, they try to fix it. And it's, there's, we're all out here trying to make money, but if you can make a friend while you're making money, then that's even better. And, some of them would be like, hey, if you're ever at the terminal and stop by, I'd like to meet you. So you go by and shake hands, say, hey, how are you doing? I'm Trucker Todd. I pulled those loads for you. You said if I was ever in the area, come by and see you. And they, oh, yeah, let me introduce you to the terminal manager. And then they take you over and introduce you to the terminal manager. Let me introduce you to some of the people around here. And they take you over to safety and all of that. Well, then if you've got uh, something you've got to talk to safety about later, they already know you, that you're that nice guy that the planner said they really like. And it gives you kind of an end to where it's not an uncomfortable conversation. It's a lot of people become truck drivers because they don't have people skills, and truck driving's the time when you do need people skills. I didn't mention this earlier in the video, but I got loaded a day early today after the broker told me it'll never happen. That planner never, or that shipper never has the product ready early. He said they stop at 2:30 and then they pull loads for the next day after 2:30. I walked in there. Sometimes you got to be a little bit of an actor. I walked in there and played dumb truck driver and said, "Hey, I'm here to check on my load." And at that time, the broker hadn't even gave me the pickup number yet. And he said, "Well, where's it going?" And I told him the city it was going to. He said, "Well, I got two of those here." He said, "I bet we've got it ready for you." And I said, "Well, I don't have that pickup number yet." I said, "Let me see if I can get it." And I said, "Is there a truck stop nearby here in case I can't get it tonight?" He said, "Yeah, but you got 2 hours before we close." He said, "I bet you can get it." So I went out to the truck and I called the broker. And I said, "Hey, I got here to this place because they have overnight parking. And I was going to spend the night here. And they asked me where my load was going. And I told them, and they said they had two of those loads, and they was pretty sure they had it ready. They said, "No, it could be for somebody else. Mine may not be till tomorrow." But I said, "Would you mind giving me that pickup number just in case?" Originally, it said he was going to text it to me the next day, and he said, "Todd, if you get loaded today, you'll be the first driver I've ever had that was able to do that." And I said, "Well, I'm not guaranteeing I can, but I'll go in there and try." I walked in there. He said, "Yep, pull in door number 2, slide your wheels, and we'll get right on it." And so I got loaded a day early. Now, why is that important? It's not going to help me on the delivery end. It's going to a major distribution center that is famous for not taking you early or rescheduling. So it's not going to get delivered early, but because I have that extra time, now I can run slower and conserve fuel. So this trip just paid me more because I'm not going to burn as much fuel because I don't have to run as hard. I can set my cruise at probably 65, 63, something like that, and I can get better fuel economy. That's the kind of things you've got to do to get an edge. You got to know when you need to run hard and when you need to kind of take it easy. And I used to be that guy at a red light. As soon as it turns green, floor the truck. It's an automatic. Let it rev up as fast as it wants. And now I kind of gently push the pedal, gradually build up speed. And when I get off at an exit, I try to let it coast to a stop because it saves fuel and it saves wear and tear on your brakes and on your tires. It also keeps your load from shifting as much. Not one single, and I may be jinxing myself here, not one single case of any load I've hauled since I've been with this company, and I've been here for 20 loads now, not one single case has fallen off of a pallet. Now, maybe that means that the warehouse is shrink wrapping it good. Maybe that means I'm using good straps and load locks. And maybe it's my driving habits are changing because I'm starting to run it more and more like a business. Took me almost 27 years, but I'm constantly learning and evolving, and some of that's because of you guys. You guys have made me a lot better than I was. I haven't arrived. I'm still not where I want to be. I still make mistakes. I did something really stupid earlier this week, and if we keep talking much longer, I may tell you what it is. But I make mistakes every day. I make the owner of this company want to pull his hair out sometimes, but I constantly try to improve and learn from my mistakes. And I hope you do that as well. What if I told you my 2021 International LT 625 with Cummins gets better miles per gallon at 65 to 67 than it does at 65 to 60? I would say that's very believable. It's possible. This truck seems to have a sweet spot of around 65. My Swift truck seemed to do it about 60 to 62. It's all in the gearing, it's all in the programming. There's a lot of factors that weigh into it. It's also the terrain. Sometimes you need to go a little faster to get some help over the hills, and that helps your fuel economy. But if you're running 75 and 80 everywhere you're going, I'm probably beating you in fuel economy, and so is Tom Bell. He's probably beating you in fuel economy too. The secret is just finding out where the sweet spot is on your truck. On these pack car engines, it seems to be at a little over 1100 RPMs. And so it just depends. On your truck, Tom, if you're running 66, let's say, let's split the middle on your numbers. How many RPMs are you turning at 66 miles per hour? Yes, sir. I agree with you. It's definitely in the programming of the truck. And just like on your car, you can get a tuner and you can tune it for fuel economy or for performance. They can tune your truck for fuel economy or for performance also. I got to take another drink. My mouth's getting dry and I can't say stuff. You know you're in good with your broker when you get invited to personal events. Exactly. The very first broker I ever dealt with was when I was at Roadrunner. And a few weeks ago, he came in one of my videos, and he's not even a broker anymore. but he was just wanting to see how I was doing. And to me, that was the ultimate compliment, to have a guy that I hadn't talked to in 3 or 4 years, but knowing that I dealt with him so professionally and in such a good way that 3 or 4 years later, he was still thinking about me and wondering how I was doing. Now he had moved on and he was a security guard at a hospital in Pennsylvania. And so, man, I tell you, those kind of things, they're right up there with when one of you guys contact me and said one of my videos helped you, or a phone call I did with you helped you. When a broker from 4 years ago remembers you and calls you, that's about as good a compliment as you're going to ever get. A lot of people don't use the jakes to slow down, can save a lot of wear and tear that way. Exactly. And especially with these automatic transmissions, the jakes are designed to work with your automatic transmission to help you slow down. But, they're worried about that 10 or 15 seconds instead of the condition of their truck, because most of them, they're either a company driver and they don't care, their company's going to trade it off in 3 years, or they're a lease purchase driver and they don't ever plan on owning it anyway. And if they do pay it off, they're going to trade it in and get another one shortly thereafter. But the guys that are in it for the long haul, that are going to drive it till the wheels fall off, they're doing like Life on 18 Wheels is talking about right here. And I don't know Life on 18 Wheels, but I'll bet you he has over 10 years of driving experience, and I'll bet you he's paid off several trucks. And he can comment if I'm right about him or not, but he's talking like a guy talks that has a lot of experience, and the kind of guy that I would listen to for advice, because he sounds like he knows what he's talking about. In the 55 to 60 range, it tries to downshift to 11 if I'm not paying attention. Yeah, yeah. And they can say these new engines are designed to be lugged. I don't like to lug them. Sounds like yours is the sweet spot's right above 1200. Mine, the sweet spot seems to be right above 1100. But I remember the older engines, the sweet spot was usually between 1400 and 1500. So the new engines are a lot lower revving. My truck is governed at 70, but I run 65 to 67. I run 1200 RPMs. And that's really cool in your case because you're a company driver. And, for you, you make more money running wide open all the time, but you're thinking about your employer and you're trying to help him be profitable. So, good on you. That's good that you're doing that. And hey, we saw it here on video. I'm wrong. I'm wrong, and like always, I point out when I'm wrong. He says at 66, he's 12 to 1250, so right above 12, like I was thinking. Here's where I was wrong. He's only got 5 to 6 years in and leasing. He plans on keeping the truck he's in. So this is going to sound like a sarcastic comment, but I really want to know, Life on 18 Wheels, how did you get your knowledge? Because you're pretty smart for a guy that's been doing it 5 or 6 years. Did you have family that were in trucking? Did you do a lot of research before you became a truck driver? I mean, at 5 to 6 years, I wouldn't expect you to have the wisdom about the Jake brakes and I mean not the Jake brakes, about all the things that you're talking about. I don't want to run wide open for another reason. If I was to lose the steer, I can accelerate to raise the nose and do a controlled stop. Yeah, knock on wood, I've in almost 27 years of driving, I've never blown a steer tire, but it's something I've always worried about, and I look my truck over pretty close every day. Matter of fact, I'm surprised I don't get a call from uh, the people that at this company that look over the logs, because some of my pre-trips are pretty long. I'll log it as I do it. If it takes 15 or 20 minutes, it takes 15 or 20 minutes. I'm going to look that truck over and it's going to be good. Now, I've learned shortcuts where a lot of times it's 8 to 10 minutes and it's quick. And I might not check everything every day, but yeah, once a week or so, I'm going to get out there and check the tires good and check the pressures and all of that. And I've been made fun of by other YouTubers for that, but uh, yeah, I haven't blown a steer tire yet. I've blown millions of trailer tires, though. I don't think that's my fault, though. I think that's other guys curb checking the tires on the trailer. I check my steers religiously. I run 120 in the steers and 110 on the drives, just like the sidewalls say. Man, you sounds like you've got it together. I run 110 all the way around on the truck, and I usually do like 105 on the trailer. But who knows? I may take my steers up to 120 and give it a shot. Right now, I'm getting really even wear on my steer tires, and so I hate to change anything. Kind of a if it ain't broke, don't fix it type thing. So DIY wanted us to do trucking cliches. We had a couple and then got no more, and then he's not even here no more. I don't know where he went, but I figured we'd get a few more peppered in than we've got tonight. But you never really know when you do these live shows where they're going to go, but they're always fun to do. I'm really proud of the group that we have in here. First in trucking, I ask a lot of drivers about a lot of things since day one. There's also YouTube. That's a good point. YouTube wasn't around when I started. I did ask a lot of drivers, and I was really hard headed for a lot of years, and it was more of a game than a job to me. But now I'm kind of taking it more seriously and trying harder. And I've got a lot of people I call for advice and suggestions. And sometimes you guys will ask me a question that I have to research and think about. So you guys have really made me better too. And I appreciate each and every one of you, even those of you that make fun of me and name call me and think I'm an idiot. I still appreciate you being here. I really do. If it's really cold outside, my pre-trip is much faster. Trust me. Oh, I understand. Last night I was in Wyoming and they had 60-mile-an-hour winds and it was raining hard. And I mean to tell you, my post trip was very, very quick. It outside anyway. I had some paperwork and stuff to do inside the truck, but my post trip, the outside portion was a very, very quick one because it was a horrible storm. So I get it. And if it's snowing, I do a pretty quick pre trip. But if it's sunny and 75 and I got time on the load, I'm going to look that truck over. Gary's back. Yeah, he had to go get some dinner. Well, Gary, the rule of the video, if you go eat dinner, you have to bring enough for everyone. So what'd you bring us? And if you didn't bring us anything, at least tell us what you had. I had microwave sandwiches tonight. And I normally get a shower before these videos, and I got parked too late for a shower. So when I finish, I'm going to go to the truck stop and get a shower and get diesel. And I'll probably drive a little further down the road. I don't know. I may wait and drive tomorrow. I hadn't decided yet. Had a blown steer tire in Birmingham, Alabama. It was raining, but I was in control of the tire. I was in control of the truck. The tire hit. A Cadillac Escalade took his front bumper off. Well, it sounds like he was tailgating, but it seems like they build tires better now, the sidewalls and stuff, and you don't see as many horrific crashes off of steer tire blowouts as what you did in years gone by. Nate Train saying hi to midlife. Had a level 2 in Montgomery last week. He told me to do a brake test. I have to admit I hadn't done that by the book in a long time, but I did pass. So he made you do a brake test without walking you through it, telling you what to do, all of that. I could probably do one, but it's been a while. I mean, I could do one where I knew if my brakes were good or not, but I don't know if I could do one to the DOT by the letter book in the correct step order, and all of that. Oh, I had pork chops last night. Good deal. I cooked them here in the truck. Midlife says hi to Nate. And Gary had my favorite apple pie. Wow. Wow. Of course it's been almost three decades since I got my CDL, but that might not be a bad idea with the upcoming blitzes and everything. It might not be a bad idea for me to refresh my memory on those things and stuff. I always thought they had to tell you the steps. Okay, pump your brakes down, build your pressure with your RPMs at this amount, things like that. I guess they don't have to. They can just tell you do a brake test. If you can jump through the phone, I'll share with you. I'm a big guy. I can't jump through anything anymore. Big, old, and clumsy. Got part of your comment. I think he was. Well, maybe what he was doing to test, he figured if you didn't know how to do if you didn't know how to do a brake test, you probably didn't know how to do a proper pre-trip. I'd have thrown it back on him though. I'd have been like, all right, what do you want me to do first? Because he may not know how to do a brake test. Yeah, they are, and I'm going to do a video about that here pretty quick. I need to get it out. They're going to be looking at brake linings and your brake drums and things like that. So get under there, make sure nothing's cracked, everything looks good, especially on your trailers, because that's the easiest ones for them to check. It's a little harder to check disc brakes, but they can still do it. Just make sure that your brakes look good. If you got any lights out, stuff that automatically draws attention to yourself, get that stuff fixed. The truck stops usually do a free mid-trip inspection. If you pull up at a TA or a Petro and they're not super busy, ask them if they'll do a quick mid trip on your truck. You never know; they may find something you missed. That's how they make their money, so I can almost guarantee you they will. But yeah, check your trucks out good and know what your brake pad limits should be, how to check that. I went years not knowing, and I finally asked a technician at a shop and got him to teach me. And so maybe I need to do a video on those things, and in case there's somebody out there that doesn't know. One thing I love here at Cheeseman is we have disc brakes all the way around. Yeah, it does. Disc brakes are nice. On a level 2, they make you pull the pigtail to prove the ABS light works on the trailer. That's actually pretty good, and because a lot of people get under there and unplug that light. Mine works because the owner of this company just spent $1,800 getting it fixed, so I know it works on this truck, but I don't know the other trailer I'm supposed to be getting. I obviously don't know about it because I hadn't seen it yet. I'm going to assume everything's good on it, but I'll look it over pretty thoroughly when I get it and get anything fixed that's not like it should be. Okay, we're creeping up on the magical 2.5 hour mark where we've been ending things lately. If you guys got anything else you want to get in, any comments, questions, suggestions, throw them up and we'll try to get them in before we wrap this puppy up and I get back to work. Um, Again, if you hadn't given me a thumbs up yet, I hope you'll consider doing that. If you hadn't subscribed yet, think about doing that as well. Also, think about telling your friends about Thursdays and Tuesdays at 5 p.m. Central and sharing this video on your social media platform. Check out the website, look at the description of the video. I hate to bring this stuff up. It's part of the necessities of YouTube, but just a reminder to you guys, if you hadn't done those things, please consider doing it. Hey, this could be fun. Tom's doing trivia. Interesting and useful thing to know. How long is the white zip line on interstates? Anyone know? Now, before we answer this question, guys, don't get out on the interstate and start measuring the white lines. That's all I needs to find out. 4 truck drivers died last night after watching Trucker Todd's video. Don't go out there and measure it. I'm going to guess 3 foot. Am I close? My 2018 Freightliner Cascadia and 2012 Wabash trailer, all ABS lights work. Yeah, that's good. Everything works on this trailer now. I'm not afraid of an inspection. The way I understand it, the only way to check disc brakes is to take the tire off. I could be wrong, but that's what I understand. Yeah, they can. There's some indicators like when I took my truck to Texas, and you could tell by the pad wear that my brakes were out of adjustment. But as far as how much disc brake pad you have left, um, it's not impossible to tell, but it's more difficult than say a drum brake where they can just crawl under there and look. John, I'll call you before the shower because I don't know what time all that's going to go on tonight, and it could be several hours, and I don't want to call you at midnight or nothing. So I'll call you after the show. I hope everything's okay, but I'll try to make you either the first or second call when I get off the video. The white zip strip is 10 inches, and they are 30 inches apart. Really? Man, I would have thought they were longer than 10 inches on an interstate. Tell Eddie he can always talk to Michelle to help him out with the miles. I know she's a recruiter, but she has pull with the company Swift. Uh, I try to keep Michelle out of the dispatch side of things. I mean, I can also, even though I'm not there no more, I can also make some phone calls and send some emails and potentially move the ball down the field a little bit. But I prefer that he does it so that he's got skin in the game. And the thing that I always suggest to everybody is go through chain of command. So he's got a good relationship with his planner or OOC or whatever you want to call him. I'd like him to start there. If they reach an impasse, then we can move up from there. But it sounds like they're already increasing his miles. So I think his problem's solved, and there's no need to get too many cooks in the kitchen. Sometimes you can get so many people working on a problem that it makes it worse. And so as long as he's working good with his OOC, I don't see a need for me to get involved or for Michelle to get involved for that matter. But if he starts having problems down the line, um, I think he'll find out I can be pretty influential even now. That means that if you have 3 zips between you and the truck, you're passing, you have 120 feet. Too much math for me, Tom, but I can't dispute your numbers. In the wintertime, I do my pre-trip inspection, especially after it snowed. I want to make sure my lights are well brushed off. Yeah, I went through a snowstorm in Kansas one time that was so bad that it covered up my tail lights while I was driving, and I didn't know they were covered up. And a DOT got behind me and pulled me over, and he said, "Hey, your tail lights are covered up." And I figured he's going to write me a ticket. And I was like, "All right, this was a few years ago. I was like, you need my log book, you need my permit book, all that." He's like, "No, just go back there and dust them off, and you're good to go." So I'm sure with the weather like it was, he didn't want to get out there and inspect me. But I got out and dusted my lights off and went down the road. Now, thing to remember, these LED lights don't generate heat like an incandescent light does. So they don't melt snow and ice like the old lights did. So it can happen. And fortunately, I got a DOT officer that night that was pretty understanding. 10 to 30 feet. There you go. Yeah, Eddie, I just, I really think that's bad advice. You can do what you want, but um, I think you'll have better luck the less people you get involved in it. And because the first thing they're going to want to know is who have you talked to, and it's a good way to tick people off. And if you start going around your OOC when she's already got your miles up, it may make you look bad, and I'll tell you why. Because they're going to pull your miles and say, well, you had 2,500 miles loaded this week, and you're deadhead on top of that. They're going to be like, she's already fixed your problem, and you're still complaining. I don't like Wesley's advice on this deal. I would encourage you to give it a couple more weeks, especially since your miles are coming up, and work with her as much as you can. And before you drag a recruiter in it, the recruiter's job is to get people hired. And while she can have some influence in the office because she's worked at Swift for like 20 something years, there's other people that's their job to take care of those things. And it's better to get the right people involved. And Wesley, of all people, should know that. When he had a problem at Swift, he contacted me, and a lot of doors opened for him because he contacted me and took my advice. And I think Wesley will agree with that. It could be none of my business. Trucker CFO was a wealth of knowledge. You said he will no longer be on. Yep. Trucker CFO, you might notice his logo's not on the screen no more. I no longer mention him in the ticker below the video. Obviously, something happened there, and I'm not going to sling any mud or anything like that. He's still my tax accountant, and I still use him for tax services, but I won't be publicly promoting him on this channel anymore. If you want to know the reason why, I would encourage you to contact him or his office and ask him why he's not on Trucker Todd no more. It was my decision to do that. He didn't pull out. He didn't say, I don't want to be on your channel no more. But he and I had a conversation, and upon the details of that conversation, I determined that it wouldn't be advantageous for us to go forward anymore. And so, like I said, I don't want to bring up YouTube drama or drama in general, and all, but it's yeah, there's no immediate plans for him to come back on the channel. Maybe a few months down the road or something, we'll look at it again, but or maybe at tax time, or maybe never. Or we may even look at bringing another tax accountant on in his place in the future. But for now, that ship has sailed. Wesley says, yes, you're right. I was wrong. So even Wesley is saying that, go through chain of command, work with your OOC before you do that. Okay, here's some good advice from guys that are in the know at Swift. They also have a YouTube channel if you've never checked them out. They say an Eddie should reach out to the planning lead in Decatur. I don't remember a name, but I was told they want to hear from drivers having issues. Well, there you go, Eddie. Since you're out of that terminal, talk to the planning lead there, and they can help you. Contractors Corner, they're hip deep in Swift and Swift knowledge, and they have a lot of good advice for issues like this. And I have a decent relationship with one of those guys. We're not buddies, we're not drinking buddies or nothing, but we have a fairly open line of communication between us. And that's probably what I would have done if your situation would have escalated. I would have contacted him for navigation and direction about who to pair you up with. Or I would have made some calls to some contacts I still had over there. But definitely, Eddie, reach out to the guys at Contractors Corner. Check out their channel. They do a Tuesday live. Unfortunately, it comes on at the same time mine does. But if you miss mine or you miss theirs, you can catch one of us on the replay. And they'll that's great advice though, that they're offering you there to reach out to the planning lead in Decatur. I will weigh both out. Duly noted. Good deal, my friend. Also, reefer folks out of Decatur, if you're willing to run Northeast, we know several doing real well out there on that account. Yeah, there you go. This is some of the inside information that Contractors Corner is really good at. They have a Facebook group that's a private group for independent contractors. You have to be currently contracted at Swift to be in that group. And so I'm not in that group, nothing, but they do that so that you can talk freely without anybody at Swift being a part of that conversation. And they, that's what I'd say about that. It might be worth it to you to join their Facebook group, to maybe check out their video each week, see what they got. If it's a topic that you think could help you or benefit you, maybe listen to it. They get a lot of great guests on there, especially from Swift. They have contacts with a lot of the higher ups, and so maybe they can help you as well. But I like his idea about talking to the planning lead, because you're still following that chain of command, and maybe even coordinate that with your OOC so that they're a part of that conversation. And maybe it's nothing more than the planning lead and your OOC work together to make sure you're getting the miles you want each week. Make a point to go in and speak with them. Yeah, face to face is always good. Putting a face with the name. I'll tell you what's funny. My OOC at Swift was a guy named Jimmy. Great guy, hands down, the best planner, dispatcher, OOC, whatever you want to call him, whatever title works best for you, that I've ever worked with at any company. Hands down, the best. He looks nothing like his voice. When I heard his voice on the phone, I thought he was a little old guy, and I pictured him being about 5 foot tall, probably 65, 70 years old. When I went to the terminal and met him, he walked up to me and, "Hey, Todd." And I was like, "Who is this? Do I know this guy?" And he's like, "I'm Jimmy. I'm your OOC." He looked like a professional wrestler. He had a beard, kind of looked like a biker type, over 6'5", huge guy. If I was going to pick a fight with somebody in that terminal, it would not be him. And I was glad we had never had a hostile conversation and that I'd never threatened him, because I'm pretty sure he could take me out if he had that desire. Many of the reefer folks don't want to run the Northeast, so there's an opportunity there. Yeah, that's a great point. And something also I'd say about that is, right now in this market, doing the stuff that nobody else wants to do is where your money's at. If it's winter and you're saying, "I only want to stay south of I-40 and I only want to run these 3 or 4 states," it's probably the same 3 or 4 states everybody else wants to run, and it's probably not going to pay real well. But if you're willing to do some winter driving, if you're willing to do multi-stop loads, things that drivers typically don't want to do, live loads, live unloads, you may find more opportunities open up for you. I've mentioned in a few videos, Swift had me pull a reefer 3 times. And most of my truck driving experiences with reefer, it wasn't that I didn't know how to pull one, it's that I didn't want to pull one. And the first time, I was pretty vocal about it. I got pretty upset, I ain't gonna lie. I did not act like the calm, cool professional that I would have liked to. And Jimmy took it, and he's like, "All right, well," he said, "I'll take it off of you if you want me to. I'll find you something else. Won't ever send you another one." And I was like, "No, you know what? This time I'll go ahead and do it." And it was for a large distribution center, going to a store and going right back to the distribution center. And I did it, and I was like, "Hey, it wasn't that bad." So I told him, I said, "Hey, I don't want to do these every week, but every once in a while, if you have one, I'll do them." and he really appreciated that. So that's what I keep saying. Sometimes you're going to have to do stuff you don't want to do. You may hate the Northeast. I hate the Northeast, but guess where I'm headed right now? To Pennsylvania. And so just keep that in mind. Hey, Tom, we spoke with Bruce Mallison this week, and sounds like your truck is geared to run at the speed you're doing. We have a couple of guys that don't have normal Swift spec trucks. I watched y'all's video on Bruce too. The one thing, and I'm not criticizing Bruce, the one thing I found funny though, and I want you to tell me if you think this is true or not. I thought he looked a lot like Joe Biden. Great information. Not saying anything bad about him, but I thought he looked like Joe Biden. Wesley agrees that Jimmy's the best. Yeah, I've texted with Jimmy a few brief conversations since I've left. I've had reasons where I needed to reach out to him, but yeah, I miss that guy. We worked really well together, and him being a former driver, he knew how to talk to me, and I knew how to talk to him, and we got a lot done. We did very well together, and he sent me a very nice text when I left Swift, telling me how much he had enjoyed working with me, and if I ever wanted to come back, he'd love to work with me again like that. Yep, it's like we thought. It's how the truck is spec'd. The trucks are doing better at 70 versus 60 due to gearing. And Charlie on Contractor's Corner made a good point in one of his videos. Not one good point, but the point I'm pointing out to now. He was talking about that, you know, he does 60 in his truck because he's on a mileage contract and he needs to minimize his fuel cost. If he was doing expedited freight or, you know, something where he was setting his rate and he could figure in fuel economy, maybe there's a situation where it pays to run wide open all the time. But Charlie's doing what's best for his business where he's at right now. And by the way, I'm not doing this for brownie points or nothing. I'm not sure if that's Charlie or Jeff representing Contractor's Corner right there. I'm just pointing out it was Charlie that made this statement, and I agree with him. When I was at Swift, I ran my truck usually about 62 miles an hour as much as I could, unless I had a load that was just too hot to do. And most of the time they had plenty of time on them. Here, I'm doing 65 when I can, sometimes faster depending on the needs of the load. But I'm figuring that when I'm negotiating my rates as best as I can. Right now, it's really tough to negotiate rates too. No Fear thought it was funny that I said Bruce looked like Joe Biden. He also kind of looks like Walter from Jeff Dunham. Yes, Jimmy is definitely over 6 foot, and I know he pops in here and watches videos sometimes. He doesn't always comment, but sometimes he'll come in and watch. And he's definitely, I'd say, over 6'5". He's a big dude, and I definitely, you know, he's not the guy that I'd say I'm gonna come down to your office and drag you over your desk, because he'd probably end up being him dragging me over his desk. Yeah. But just back to Jimmy for a second, just the nicest guy you'll ever meet. I created a little bit of a problem for him. I shot my mouth off about how good he was in a video, and he started having everybody wanting to get on his board, and his board filled up, and he's like, Todd, I appreciate the compliments, but could you not mention me for a few weeks? And so I had to quit talking about him. I quit saying his name in videos because so many people wanted to work with him because of the good experience I was having. And I can be a handful, so if somebody can work with me, they're a special person. What exactly do they do for Swift? They're both drivers. Charlie and his wife run kind of a super single deal for Swift. It's my understanding they do like Target Dedicated or Home Goods or something out of Florida. But in a video probably a month or two ago, I heard him say that he was going to do some over the road stuff. And I know occasionally he'll branch out and go to Phoenix or go to Vegas or something like that. But I think generally he does dedicated. Jeff is on Eastern Regional Freight, ERF, or was. He may be doing OTR now. I haven't asked him specifically. I do talk to Jeff periodically, not regularly, but periodically through text. Sometimes he'll have a question for me, or I'll have a question for him, and he's a pretty good dude. Jeff, by the way, I'm going to talk about Jeff just a second longer. He drives a Volvo, from what I understand, and he converted the bottom half of his sleeper into an office. He's got filing cabinets. He's got a computer down there, a desk. It's a pretty cool setup. And then I guess he sleeps on the top bunk. And I asked him for a video showing the layout because I'm really curious how he did it and what it's like and how it all comes together. And he said he was going to put one out when he finished it, that he hadn't finished it yet. But on Contractor's Corner, you can kind of see it in the videos when he's in his truck and when he has good signal. It seems like he gets in bad signal areas like I do a lot. But he's definitely got a cool thing going on with his truck. And Jeff was real supportive of me when I got that Volvo too. A lot of people were saying, "Oh, you're stupid for buying that truck. You're going to have nothing but problems." And Jeff was fairly supportive of it and wishing me the best and things like that. And Jimmy does seem like a good dude as an OOC. He is really trying to help guys do well. Yeah, he's solid. I would part of me would like to see him become a terminal manager and move up the ladder, and part of me knows that he's doing such a good service for the drivers that I'd hate to see the drivers lose him. Contractor's Corner, they like a guy or a gal named Sue Smith, and I don't know her personally, but I've heard a lot of people say good about her too. I've always been afraid to talk to her because she's pretty straightforward and she'll hammer you on your numbers. And sometimes I know my numbers better than other times. Like I said, I'm not perfect. And so I've always been a little bit afraid of Sue, but I watched her on their show when they were in Vegas, and she does put out a lot of good information, and you can regularly see her in the comments of their videos as well. But like I said, I never had the opportunity to meet her personally, and I can only imagine what she thinks of me, but a lot of people really like her. Yeah, I started to ask you guys if y'all thought he looked like Joe Biden too, but or Walter from Jeff Dunham, but I didn't know how y'all would take that if you thought I was criticizing your video or something. But man, he has a lot of good information, and you could he's talking about, here's the deal. I listened because Jeff texted me and said, "Hey, I know you don't get to watch all our shows, but if there's one you want to watch this one this week, we're going to have Bruce on." And I said, "Jeff, I'm a pretty busy guy, but I'll do my best to check as much of it as I can." And I watched the first part, and he's talking about people going over 200,000 miles before needing an end frame. Now, keep in mind, a lot of people are getting end frames now at 800,000. And Bruce was talking about in that video, there were engines not that long ago that people were getting end frames at 300,000. So these additives that Bruce offers from Pittsburgh Power, these improvements that are being made to the trucks each and every year are making a big difference on truck longevity and things like that, whether we want to admit it or not, whether we like the DEF systems or not. Definitely making an improvement. And I think if Charlie's here, if this is Charlie from Contractor's Corner, he would be a great guy to ask. First of all, if you guys got any tire questions, and this is Charlie, this is your guy. But secondly, he would be the guy to ask about truck fuel economy. Yeah, at his house right now, he has an old Freightliner that he drove for years and years. He has a nickname for it. I don't remember what it is. And he could tell you, managing fuel as best he could, what his fuel economy was on it. And he's detailed with numbers. He could probably go months and months and maybe years and years on numbers. And then he could tell you, since he got this 2023, what his numbers are. And I'm willing to bet, I haven't talked to Charlie in many months, but I'm willing to bet that Charlie would say that his new truck is getting a lot better fuel economy. And I bet he's willing to say that it's more comfortable too. I think he likes his new truck. Now, I may be putting words in his mouth. That may be not how he feels. But even if this is Jeff from Contractor's Corner, Jeff and Charlie are like best friends. They talk every day. I'm sure Jeff could verify if what Charlie thinks about his new Freightliner. They sent me pics of a KW. It's nice. Yeah, I love my KW 76-inch sleeper. Um, the one thing about a Kenworth, or I mean about a Freightliner, though, it's tough to beat the reliability, and it's tough to beat the parts availability. Like, you can pull into a TA, they're certified to work on Freightliner and Detroit, and you can get parts pretty quick, pretty easy. On PACCAR, like I got in this truck, sometimes it can be a challenge finding somebody that can work on the truck, finding parts, things like that. That air tank's a great example. Couldn't find one in the whole country. Uh, couldn't get one for PACCAR for several weeks. They had to hand make it. So I ended up having to find a metal fabrication shop that could fix this one. I was down 8 days for that. And I ain't gonna lie, it just about killed me. It would make sense because most drivers here run 70. I can see why they would gear for it. Yeah, it's a tightrope that companies have to walk. Tightrope in that they have to set the truck speed high enough that drivers want to work there, but they have to set it low enough that they're still safe and that they can still get the fuel economy targets that they have set. And so that's the line they have to walk. Sorry for popping in on this account. Was typing earlier on my personal account, but I think it's blocked or hidden from the channel. Wasn't trying to promote our stuff in here. No, you're good. If you'll tell me which account you think is blocked or hidden from the channel, uh, I'll get that taken care of for you. I don't know if I did it or if somebody else did it. And as far as I'm concerned, Jeff fixed everything between us, and you're not blocked. Feel free to come in, promote whatever you want to promote. Um, I don't know if you're a moderator or not. If you're not, I'll take care of that. Now, it may take me a couple of days to figure out how to unblock you if you're saying you're blocked, but I'll definitely go to work on it. Yeah, as far as I'm concerned, there's no bad blood there, and you know, Jeff fixed a lot of things in my mind, and so I'll get you unblocked if I can find out what account you're blocked on. Right now, I can't pull the chat up on either phone, and so that's making it difficult to. There we go. Okay, Contractor's Corner. Yep, I've got to do it on this other phone, and it's not. Ah, there we go. Okay, Contractor's Corner. This account, you're a moderator again. Like I say, if you'll tell me what accounts you think you're blocked on, we'll get that fixed. Anything you think is blocked or anything, just let me know, and I'll get that fixed. Okay, good deal. Oh, it's Charlie. Hey, Charlie. Um, Yeah, you've got my number. If you want to text me what account's blocked, it takes a little work, at least the way I know to unblock people and make them moderators, but I'll go in there and fix it. Or if you want to come in this way and promote your stuff, you're good. And I know Jeff watches sometimes too. If anything of Jeff's is blocked or not working or anything Jeff wants to promote, that's fine. I know you guys are starting a subscription service soon, and I was going to mention that for you guys on here when y'all get that up and running. Jeff was telling me a little bit about that as well. I run faster when the next LTL is closing soon, or I need a little extra to get home. Yeah, there you go. Strategic speeding. We are contractors at Swift Eddy and are out here like others trying to. Yep, they do something similar to what I do. They try to help drivers. Um, they do it a little differently than I do. They do a lot of educational type stuff, and it's we approach it from different angles. But I like to think that we're doing the same thing. And I've been on their channel a couple of times. We hadn't been able to get them on here in the past because of scheduling things. But at some point, I really want to talk to Charlie about tires. And so at some point, I may have to move some stuff around or something. And I want to talk to Jeff about more market type stuff, numbers type stuff. So at some point in time, I may have to move some stuff around to where we can make that happen. Yeah, Tom wants to see Jeff's truck too. And he told me there's a video coming. Jeff is OTR now, as are Rosie and I, more often than not these days. Yeah, I had heard you guys were kind of doing the over the road thing. And when I go up in the Northeast, I always wonder if I'll run into you guys. Jeff goes everywhere, though. You don't know where you'll see Jeff. But he seems to like the Iowa 80 truck stop a lot. He's shot a few videos from that location. So I'm guessing he runs 80 a lot. Jeff has a 16 Cascadia. Oh, it's not a Volvo. So I stand corrected. I thought Jeff had a Volvo 670, but he's got a Cascadia as well. You should look up Clutch Trucker. He extended his sleeper up top to put a double bunk. Bottom area got converted to a kitchen and a bathroom. Get this, he has steps. Oh, that's cool. I'll have to check it out. You know that CR England had a truck that they could put like 5 drivers in. They basically took out a bunch of the cabinets in the sleeper, and it was so they could train a lot more people. And I thought, man, if they ever wrecked that truck, it'd be a bloodbath. There'd be dead people everywhere. Because, you know, even though your truck has 2 beds, you're really only supposed to sleep in the bottom bed. So I don't know how they do that. Maybe they got nets over all of them and it's okay to do. And I don't know if CR England is still doing that or not, but that was big news when they started doing that. Nothing wrong with criticism. We like getting feedback, by the way. Yeah, I keep quiet when I watch your videos because I know some of your audience doesn't like me very much, and I didn't know how well that'd be received, but I do try to check y'all stuff out as much as I can. And as for the feedback part, yeah, you better love criticism when you start a YouTube channel. I've been called everything but a white man, and I've been criticized in ways you can't even imagine. I've been harassed. I mean, just everything. So you got to have pretty thick skin, and that's one thing about Charlie that he's really good at. If I'm going to talk about Charlie for a second, people can throw a criticism at him, and it rolls off of him like water off a duck. He just kind of laughs and keeps going. Sometimes he'll make fun of himself, and it's kind of funny to watch his show for that reason. But yeah, he takes. Maybe it's from his military background. Charlie takes criticism better than probably most people I've ran across in my life. Chewy, the '07 Century, was a lifetime average of about 7.5. Well, that's not too bad. Now he's fixing to tell us what the brand new truck averages. My new 2023 Cascadia, my lifetime average is 8.98. Had a few too many idle days in the last 90. I was at a solid 9. So when things are right, he's getting a mile and a half a gallon better. And Charlie's much more of a numbers guy than I am. But I'm going to bet a mile and a half a gallon is probably a few $100s a week in increased profit, isn't it? Isn't it, Charlie? So I probably ought to defer that question to Charlie about the speed of the Swift trucks. When I was there, it was 68 on the cruise and 70 on the pedal. If you didn't have their camera, if you did take their camera, it was 70 and 72. I don't know if any of that's changed since they mandated the cameras if you use their own insurance. Like I say, when people ask me about Swift, I usually tell them to contact Michelle because it's been 3 months or so since I've been there, and the information's constantly changing, and I don't want to give out bad information. I've already done that tonight a few times. I thought Jeff had a Volvo. He has got a Freightliner, just things like that. So if Charlie's still here and he doesn't mind, maybe he can tell you what the speed of their trucks are over there. But I'll tell you, at Swift, you'll make more money running 60 to 62. The reason I got the new one last July was for the comfort following my neck surgery. Yeah, I bet. And that Freightliner I had was a freaking limousine on wheels. It didn't have the heated and cooled seats like I got now, but it was leather seats. It rode good. It was quiet. It was a good truck. And one guy came in here saying he got my truck. I don't know if he did or didn't, but whoever got that truck got a really good truck. Yeah, again, Wesley, it depends on if you took the camera, didn't take the camera, things like that. But um, I know they slowed you down if you didn't take the camera. In most cases, yeah, you're right. 70's fast enough. Um, if you're running east of I-35, especially, when you start going out west, you feel like you're crawling when everybody passes you. It's not a safety concern like some people would suggest, but yeah, it 70's okay in most places. There's a lot of states that the speed limit's 65, and so it's fine. If I got to Swift, I'll be pulling reefer. Well, there you go. Go, not got. Okay, so it's if I go to Swift, I'll be pulling a reefer. I don't do the Northeast, do the firearm regulations, but I'll go just about anywhere else. Yeah, right now I'm in the middle of nowhere, Nebraska, and I'm about to be running across 80 on my way to Pennsylvania. I have a Tuesday morning at 5 a.m. appointment in Pennsylvania, and I'm aggressively looking on the load boards for my next load out of there. And so if any of you are going to be on 80, holler at me. We may cross paths, but that's what I'll be doing. They didn't sleep on the bunk over the driver at CR England. That's where they put the bags. The truck had to be stopped to use the one overhead. Well, then, where does everybody sit while it's going down the road? See, I got a lot of questions. And I saw one of those trucks and I went, what a mess. I would never ride in that. But I guess, did they have seat belts on one of the bunks and everybody sit on that and belted themselves in? Like some of the old KWs, the bottom bunk turned into like a bench seat, and it had seat belts, and you could seat people back there. Was it a setup like that, or how did it work? Okay, here's Charlie with the numbers, and he's proven that he's the numbers guy. That's not a criticism, by the way. Absolutely better profit at 9 versus 7.5 on 100,000 miles. That's 13.3 thousand gallons at 7.5. That's 11.1. So you're saving 2,200 gallons. And let's say that fuel is 350 a gallon right now, because this is great information. And I know it's great video while I'm sitting here playing on my phone. 2,200 gallons times 3.5. That's $7,700 a year. You take $7,700 a year, you divide it by 52. It's $148.07 a week uh, into Charlie's pocket. Each week, Charlie drives that new Freightliner. He puts an extra $148.07 in his pocket. Now, some of you are going to argue, well, but he has a truck payment. He's paying 600 and something a week for his truck. That's true. I would also argue, though, that his maintenance costs are probably a lot less as well. So it probably doesn't cost him anything to be in the new truck that's more comfortable. It's easier on his neck and back. And he's riding in style, styling and profiling in his new freight shaker. The Oklahoma Turnpike, the minimum speed is 60. Yeah, and I wish everybody would do the minimum speed limit. In a lot of places, the minimum speed limit on interstates is 45. And man, you get out there and you'll see people doing 20, 25, 30, and they don't even have their flashers on. If your car is disabled and you need to go that slow, at least get on the shoulder and get off the highway if you've got something that wrong with your vehicle. I'm sorry, I'm trying not to go on a safety rant. I'm going to be on 80. I'm going to Carson City, Nevada. Yeah, I'm going to call you after the show, John. We need to hang out. I hadn't seen you in a while. We'll cross paths somewhere. You know, a couple of years ago, a guy wanted me to get that Life 360 app and come up with a deal where uh, viewers could kind of see where I'm at in the country, and maybe we could meet up and hang out. And at the time, I was reluctant to do it because I had a couple of stalkers. I had some trolls that were doing some bad things, but all that's kind of settled down, and maybe we'll get to the point to where we'll consider doing that at some point. I've got a new kind of members only thing that YouTube's been pushing me to do. Maybe we set that up for $2 or $3 a month. Viewers can track me across the country and see where I'm at, or something like that. I'll give it some thought. The concern is when I go on home time, I don't want to divulge where my house is when I'm home, when I'm not home, or when I'm at family's house. I don't want to divulge their locations. But at the same time, when I'm out here on the road, I want to be accessible to you guys, and those that want to meet me or that want to have a conversation with me, I want to be accessible to you guys as well. So I'll give that some more thought as I'm driving tonight and tomorrow, and maybe we'll come up with something that works for everybody. The Oklahoma Turnpike, I'll do 65. There you go. So there's exceptions to every rule. And while I think he does 60 most of the time, there are times when he'll speed it up. And I think that makes sense. There's nothing wrong with that. But if he was to get his own authority, negotiate his own rates and stuff, it's possible he might change his strategy for whatever he's doing next. The one thing that him and Jeff have been real clear on is that they adjust their strategy for what they're doing, and they let the numbers dictate what they do and what they don't do. Did they wear helmets? There you go. That's funny. That's funny. Yeah, the CR England drivers all wore crash suits and helmets, and the bottom of the truck was painted in a fluorescent color, so when they rolled it, the helicopters could find them quickly. Just think of how top heavy that truck would be with three drivers on the top bunk, three 250-pound drivers. You'd think it'd make the truck top heavy. Maybe not. I don't know. It's that time of night where I say goofy things and it gets used against me later on. Dang good show, Todd and family. Well, thank you, my friend. I appreciate that. And then calculate our fuel surcharge into that. And the fuel is damn near free. Yeah, I was making like $120, $150 a week off the fuel surcharge. And, I beat every time Swift's fuel surcharge comes up, I beat up on Hirschbach because they always advertise if you come to work here, you get 99-cent fuel. And people that don't know look at the pumps and go, oh, fuel's $4 a gallon. I'd rather pay 99 cents. What they don't tell you is you have to fuel where they want you to fuel. You have to not get a fuel surcharge. And a fuel surcharge like Swift's, you can make money off of it if your truck's getting good fuel economy. Right now, it's down a little because fuel prices are down, but you can still pay for a large portion of your fuel. And I mean, it can make or break you. So I think a lot of people, they look at Swift, they go, oh, $1.25 a mile. That's terrible. But they don't calculate in the fuel surcharge. They don't calculate in the deadhead pay. They don't calculate in the paid tolls. They don't calculate in there's no trailer payment. There's no tag payment. When you throw in all those little things, it's not a terrible deal. I've said it. It's well known. The highest paying job I've ever had in any industry was working at Swift Transportation. I did very, very, very well there. Nobody denies that. And honestly, at times I miss it. But I love what I'm doing now. I work for a great guy now. I've got tons of freedom. But when it's the day before payday and I'm wondering how I'm going to pay a bill tomorrow or something like that, it's mighty tempting to think back to my days of Swift and wish I was still there. No Fear still laughing. He's having a good time tonight. Absolutely. I had a 04 Columbia. I loved it. And I have to be honest, shaking my head, this new Freightliner with the automatic is hard to beat. The maintenance alone is worth it. The ride as well. I'll tell you, I never thought I was going to like an automatic. And still, there's times I wish I had a manual. It's fun to shift. It's fun to be in control of the power. But, man, these automatics, if you get in a traffic jam, if there's an accident and the road's blocked and it's stop and go, or you're going through a big city and it's stop and go, it's nice not wearing your left leg out and your left knee out trying to push that clutch in and out. And so there's definitely some advantages to the automatic. And technically, it's not an automatic; it's an automated. I know before somebody corrects me, but it's to the layman, it's an automatic. It shifts gears for you. Then add in shopping for fuel with Mudflap or Fuelbook or ES Advantage card, and you make money pumping fuel into the tanks as long as you keep. Yeah, and maybe that's where we're different on our numbers. I was pretty much exclusively using ES Advantage. Occasionally I'd do Mudflap or Fuelbook or something, or at a terminal, but I was almost exclusively using ES Advantage. And with that ES Advantage fuel card, you could make money on the fuel surcharge at Swift. The discounts were that good. Nastic is pretty close. I kind of go back and forth between them. That's what this company uses. But I highly recommend ES Advantage. And, a lot of people down it because you got to prepay, but you just put a couple $100 a week in there and then do like I did. I got it built up to 1500 and it's down again now. I got to get it built back up. I got it to 1500, and then if I bought 1500 or I bought $600 worth of fuel, I would do a ACH for $600 to replenish it. And by the time, if I needed 2 tanks of fuel, I still had enough to get it going, and my ACH was always hitting, and it just kept the cycle going. And I got to where I didn't even miss the ACHs coming out. And that's where you got to get to. By the way, these things that Contractors Corner and I are talking about, they're in the description of my video. You can go in there. There's links. If you do ES Advantage, I believe you get $35 back right now. If you do Mudflap, you get $10 off your first fill up. Man, I can't talk. And they don't require you to have good credit, just like if you call Avery for a truck. I realize a lot of you got credit issues just like I do. And so when I offer you these solutions, I try to offer you solutions that you can do, even if you've had some credit struggles. I've had some credit struggles. My credit score's dropped over 100 points since I left Swift. Wesley says, that's true. I don't like the bells whistling at you on these trucks. Radars on the front of the truck, the mirrors are blinking, etc. Now, I don't like the brick on the front of the bumper. I do like the blind spot monitoring thing that has the little yellow light on the pillar on the passenger door. So if there's a car in your blind spot, hopefully it sees it. I don't mind that so much. This Kenworth is set up to where you can install additional cameras on it and you can look at them through the radio. And I think that'd be pretty cool to have like a camera on the back of your trailer. I could do it on this truck because I use the same trailer all the time. And I may look into that at some point if it's not ridiculously expensive. I can also run them through my Samsara camera. I think it supports 3 or 4 cameras, and I'm a big fan of cameras. I'm just not a big fan of safety departments controlling them. It's all about doing what's best for your business. Yes, sir. We agree about that for sure. And we agree about probably a little over 90%. You're never going to find 2 truck drivers that agree on everything. And in the past, we've had some heated debates, and you could debate who's right, who's wrong. Maybe we're both a little right and we're both a little wrong, but we both have the same objective. We're both trying to help drivers, and there's going to be times when you're going to ask a question, especially about tires, and I'm going to say Contractors Corner is going to be a better resource for you than I am. There might be a time where they think I'm a better resource for you, and so that's what you got to do is build a network of people that you don't have to be the jack of all trades, the expert of everything, but hopefully if you don't know about something, you know somebody you can send people to, and hopefully they reciprocate and do the same thing. These new trucks have these whistles and radars and lane departure. Drives me crazy. Yeah, at some previous companies I worked at, it would do silly things like it would, if it thought you was out of your lane, whether you were or not, it'd cut your radio off. And I'd be listening to an audio book and it'd get to the good part, and the murderer is, and it would cut out right when the murderer was being told. And then I'd have to rewind the book to hear it. Or, it would be a news story. Today, something blew up in such and such town. Right when it got to the town, it would cut out. And it would do silly things like you'd put the truck in reverse and it'd turn your radio off. And I realize why it does that, and I realize it's a safety thing. But first of all, I've probably already got my radio down while I'm backing up. And if I don't, I've got it at a whisper where it's not affecting my ability to hear somebody yell or hear a crunch if I back into something. And hopefully I'm getting out and looking and I'm not backing into anything. So what's your input on the yellow situation? We kind of talked about that earlier in the show. I uh, I haven't been following it as closely as I probably should have, but generally speaking, I I don't think Yellow's going to close their doors. I think somebody's going to save them, buy them out, something. Uh, but I haven't been following it close enough to know. I'll bet you Charlie's been following it a lot closer than I have, and maybe he'll put a comment in there about what he thinks on Yellow. I think that overall, though, the Union overplayed their hand, and like the other guy said, they may win the battle and lose the war. Um, Yellow is guilty of making some terrible financial decisions, like giving their executives big payouts and stuff when they really shouldn't have, and things like that. But I think they're too big to fail. And I'm not a bankruptcy lawyer, but it sure seems to me like there's some type of situation there where maybe they file a bankruptcy to get rid of some of their debt and somebody buys them out or parts them out and a couple of companies buy them out. The thing I think about is, and maybe Charlie knows about this too. I heard that Swift had quite a bit of debt when Knight merged with them, and Knight assumed some of that debt. And maybe there's a situation like this here for Yellow. Maybe there's a situation where another company buys them and assumes some of the debt. Now, I think the people that are the big losers in this deal are going to be those guys waiting on pensions. I think the pensions are gone. And maybe I'm pessimistic. Maybe I don't have all the facts. That's for sure. I haven't been following it as closely as I probably should have, but just from the 30,000 foot view of what I've seen, that's kind of my take on it so far. And if something news breaking happens about it, I'll do a video about it. And of course, there'll be a lot more research in it, and I'll have a lot more coherent opinion about it. They actually have 3 programs now at ES. One is prepaid, one is a way to build credit with a prepaid card account that pulls from your bank twice a week, and one is a full-blown credit offer if you have. Man, I wish they would have told me about that. I need to get a hold of Jeff Reese and talk to him, because I've got a guy right now that would seriously consider them, but he wants the full-blown credit offer. I wish they would send me emails when they get stuff, when they make changes like that. At one time, Jeff and I talked, and he was going to do that, but it never materialized. Well, I think my guy would be okay with even the paying twice a week. He just doesn't want to prepay because he's got a fleet of several trucks. Disagreement leads to learning. When you are willing to have a discussion, discomfort, or even pain causes growth. Yeah, that's a guy that was in here earlier that's not, I think he's driving right now and can't comment. Our very first telephone conversation, we had a pretty heated debate. It was respectful, but we clearly disagreed on something. And he went back and did the research. And in that instance, he decided I was right. And he called me back and apologized, said, "Hey, Todd, after I looked at it a little more, you were right, I was wrong." And I really respected him for that, because a lot of people won't admit when they're wrong. And since then, we've become pretty good friends. He calls me several times a week, and we don't always agree on everything, but I know that he and I can disagree about it. We can have a heated debate, but there's no hard feelings, and we're still friends at the end of it. So, yeah, I agree with that statement. Disagreements do lead to learning. And there are 2 million ways to make money in trucking and 3 million ways to lose it. Yeah, right now I'm doing pretty good on the 3 million ways to lose it. And if I told you guys what I was making, it would really, you'd say, I don't see how you're not making it. But it's nothing to do with the business. And Jeff and I was talking about this the other day. It's just that I took on way more debt than what an independent contractor should have. And I'll make it up in other ways. I'll come out of this. The sun's going to shine tomorrow, but I'd be lying if I said I hadn't had a few sleepless nights. I'd be lying if I said I don't stress out about it sometimes. And my wife is doing some things to help as well. She got a job this week. She starts Saturday, and it'll be a temporary thing to kind of help out while I recover from all this debt. But I've been counted out several times, and I always seem to come back. And I wouldn't count me out, but know that I got my work cut out for me for sure. And I go through the same stuff y'all do. I have self doubt and wonder and stuff, but I just have to rely on you guys' prayers and on my knowledge and decision making abilities and hope for the best. Learn what caused the pain and loss for others and maybe avoid making those mistakes. Yeah, I used to have a sales manager that called it learn from the donkey. And of course, donkey uh, is another term for uh, jackass. I can say that because it's not a cuss word when you use it in that context. And so learn from the jackass, learn from the donkey. And he was saying when you see a salesman do something stupid or say something stupid that costs them a sale, learn from it so you don't make the same mistake. And I've always remembered that saying, and it's a good one. It's sad. I feel for the drivers, but yellow needs to go away. Yeah, I just feel like somebody's going to buy them. Roadrunner's doing really well right now. Swift has experienced a lot of, or has expressed a lot of interest in the LTL market. FedEx, UPS. I mean, I just feel like somebody's going to absorb them. Maybe Estes. I don't know. I don't see them going away, but I do see them being far different than what they are right now. Dang, it got windy here. It's shaking the truck. Craig is here. Good evening. Craig, we're normally out by now. We're almost at the 3.5 hour mark, but we've had good discussion going on tonight, so we're just rolling with it. I was able to pick my load up a full 24 hours early, so I've got some time and we can do this thing. We can go as long as you guys can keep it going. Swift's debt is what made that merger lucrative for Knight. Knight's philosophy is to be debt free, and they do it well. Yeah, let me talk about Knight for a second. I was a little nervous to come to Swift because I didn't have a very positive opinion of Knight, but having worked at Swift, I really liked what I saw. They left a lot of things about Swift the way they were that let Swift keep its identity, but at the same time, they streamlined a lot of things that needed to streamline. And my opinion, I can say this now, I don't work there anymore. Nobody's got a hammer over my head. I think they made Swift a better company, and I enjoyed working there. And so there. I learned tonight from a disagreement with Todd. I learned. There you go. Well, one thing you'll learn, if you disagree with me, you're probably right. Yeah, that's what I wish you guys would do. I wish you guys would release a video, and even if you had to pay to see it, I would like to see something that you two truly disagreed on and watch you two debate it. Not something stupid, but like something that is interesting that you two clearly disagree about. Because I know at the end of the day, y'all'd still be friends after the disagreement. And I know behind the cameras, when the cameras are off, you guys have disagreements. But I would just like to hear both of you's debating skills, kind of get your take on things. Charlie knows my first opinion of Jeff, and I think Jeff's first opinion of me. We weren't the biggest fans of each other. And now that I've got to know Jeff a little bit, and I still don't know him well, I don't want to mislead this or inflate this, but the little I know about Jeff, I enjoy talking to Jeff now. He's pretty tactful, and the few times he's texted me, we've had pretty good text conversations, in my opinion. Now, he may come out Tuesday and go, that Todd's a jerk, and a moron, and I hate talking to him. But from my perspective, I've had pretty productive conversations with Jeff. Like I said, there was a riff there, and Jeff pretty well fixed it. Opinions and learned from each other. Yeah, that's good. But it takes a special person to do that, especially in this day and age. Right now, if you disagree with somebody, they want to cancel you. They want to get you kicked off YouTube. They want to try to get you fired from your job, things like that. And it takes it takes. That's what impressed me about Tim back so much, is that he called me and admitted that I was right, and we were arguing about a DOT rule or something. And then I respected him so much for that we instantly became friends. And now, if we have a disagreement about something, it usually lasts about 5 minutes, and then we're both laughing about it. And most of our conversations now are just laughing. Oh, great! Now that song is in my head. Todd is Little Orphan, Little Orphan Annie, huh? Oh, because I said the sun will come out tomorrow. I didn't even realize I said that. See what I mean about when I get tired, I'll say stupid stuff. And oh boy, this is the part of the show where Trucker Todd gets himself in trouble. And I'll spend all day on the phone tomorrow explaining myself. Only the strong survive, Todd, and you'll definitely survive. Well, I hope you're right, man. And if I don't survive, I'll reinvent myself. And like I said, if I fail, if the tow truck shows up and repos the truck, and or the owner of the company I'm working for says, Todd, it's been real, it's been fun, but it ain't been real fun, and I don't want to do it no more. I might find myself in another lease purchase at some point. I'm not down in lease purchases. I'm saying that if you have a chance to get a truck in your name, title in your name, that you're ahead of the game. Companies treat you different. Opportunities open up for you that was never there before, and you do have a lot more freedom. But I'm not bashing lease purchase. There's a place for it in the world. Most of them are awful, and you should never do them. They are more expensive than going to a dealership in most cases. But hey, if you got trashy credit and you want to own a truck for a low startup fee, it might be an option you look at. Hey Todd, have you considered getting your wife her CDL so you two could team run? No, for a couple of reasons. One, she don't want to do it, and two, same reason I don't train. I use a CPAP machine. I put water in the humidifier, and I don't want it splashing water in the CPAP or in the CPAP. I don't want the CPAP falling off the shelf if she hits a pothole and breaking the machine. And I don't want a trainee in here. Also, I got a lot of junk in here. I've got a laptop. I've got some gaming systems. I've got multiple phones for the YouTube stuff, and it's a big deal when you bring another person on. The only time in my life I ever teamed was when I was in training with Swift back in 1996, and I had the very best trainer a man could ever have. And at the end of 6 weeks, we were ready to kill each other. And so, I I don't think I could team with another person. And if you team with your wife, you never see them. She does come on the truck and ride with me sometimes, albeit it's going to be a little harder now that she's going to be working in Lubbock. But this is definitely uh, uh, what I hope is a temporary deal till we get the ball rolling again. But it was appreciated that she is willing to go out and do that. We all know the male is a jackass. What is the female? Useless trivia. Trivia. Of course, she's a Jenny. That's funny. It's probably true. Tom knows a lot of trivia. We may bring Tom on one night for trivia night and let him give us a bunch of facts. No one is going to want Yellow or its subsidiaries because of the Teamsters. Yeah, but see, that's the legal stuff I don't know. If they sell, do they have to keep the Teamsters? And if they file bankruptcy, do they have to keep the Teamsters? Or can they get out of their Teamsters contracts. That's why I prefaced it by saying I'm not a lawyer. And if they split the company up and three companies each buy a third of Yellow, what happens to the union then? I guarantee you right now there's legal minds that are smarter than any of us that are looking for ways that they can make this work. Heartland Express, who owns Millis Transfer, CFI, and Smith, are a debt-free company. Yeah, they are. Or that's what they claim. I talked to them at one point because they had a dedicated deal that would have brought me to the Lowe's home improvement store in Lubbock, and I would have been home like every week. I think 3 out of 4 weekends or something. But at the time, I had a dog, and they didn't allow pets, and that was a deal breaker for me. And I wasn't excited about the slow truck, but I thought, well, I could do it. But man, that pay cut for being home that much, I don't think I could do that. KNX has a lot of companies under them. With the recent acquisition of US Express and Total, what are the chances they'll start merging some of these companies? Right now, I would say not very likely. Right now, they've said that they're planning to leave them running independent and just kind of improve some of their processes and streamline things. Who knows what they'll do 5 or 10 years down the line? But right now, they're saying they're going to leave things like they are. Gary says he's got to run. Have a good night. You too, my friend. Thank you for being here for so long. I can't believe any of you are still here at the 3.5 hour mark, but I appreciate each and every one of you. I promise you that. We're butting heads right now about me not wanting to actually pay off the truck I'm in now. We both have our arguments and are going to air both sides. We're even going to have a CPA weigh in. I'm curious. I don't have an opinion on it. Why would you not want to pay off your truck? Are you going to trade it in and get another one and stay under warranty, or what's your philosophy? Because I think I know what mine is, and I'll tell you in a minute, but I'm somewhere in the middle between the two of you. Yep, I think it was about a DOT rule that Tim and I debated, and he's a good guy, and he's not able to respond right now. I always say I'm going to talk crap about him when he can't respond, but I really don't have anything bad about him to say. Any man that can apologize to another man or say, "Hey, I may have been wrong," my hat's off to him. I got to have respect for him. So yeah, he's fun to debate because he's a smart guy and knows his stuff. I don't see the value for me in my situation to pay off this truck off, and I believe most folks starting off have a truck free and clear is best for most. Yeah, I see that. The only way, what I would do, and I guess I'm somewhere in the middle. If it was me, I would consider that truck a however many year test drive, and I would drive it for the term of the lease. And then if it had been a good truck, I would consider paying it off and selling it. Maybe drive it another year and sell it and get another one. If it was a lemon that was in and out of the shop all the time, then I probably wouldn't even wait till the end of the lease. I would talk to Swift about upgrading and try to get out of it. But I think you proved when you had your old Freightliner that you can have a better quality of life and make killer money when you've got a paid off truck that you don't have a truck payment on. Me, for one, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to drive this truck till it's paid off, and then I'll make a decision. Do I keep it? Do I trade it in, get another one? I'll be in a lot better situation, assuming I make it to the end, because I'll not be a first-time truck buyer, and I'll have a truck with equity. So hopefully I can get a good deal on my next one, potentially new or almost new. But if this truck's a lemon, I'll be looking to trade out of it as quick as I can, possibly even contacting the dealership before the lease is up and because it's a lease to purchase, and seeing what options are available to me. But late in my career and health stuff, we shall see if he can sway my view. Yeah, that has to weigh into it too. How much longer are you planning to be driving? If you've got say a 4-year lease and you're only planning to drive 7 more years or 6 more years, maybe you keep that one and just run it out. If you've got 10 years left in you, maybe you do start another one and that next one's your last one. What about the Jason and Stewie show? Are they going live right now? Kennedy Walker is here. Hey there. Thanks for coming in. I appreciate it. Yellow is 4 separate companies. The problem is that if someone bought one of them, they'd have to hire drivers or take the Teamsters. I don't think it'd be hard to hire drivers right now. Anytime there's a buyout, a lot of the drivers quit anyway, regardless of who buys them out, because a lot of drivers don't like change. And you've got your normal rotation of drivers that are changing jobs anyway fairly regularly. I don't think it'd be difficult for them to hire drivers. Wesley says Yellow would have good equipment to buy if they go under like Celadon. Oh, that's a loaded comment. So Yellow would have those ugly day cabs, and some of them are better than others. I happened to pass by the Yellow terminal when I was in Lubbock, and I saw a lot of trucks there that didn't even look roadworthy that I know they use every day. But I'm sure they've got some good equipment too. Celadon's a whole different beast. You might remember when Celadon went belly up, a lot of their trucks sat for over a year. And then when people bought those trucks, they were big lemons that broke down a lot. Now, they were good trucks when they got parked, but just the sitting, the worst thing you can do to a piece of equipment is let it sit. And so I don't know about the Celadon trucks. I had you remember Celadon used to have that leasing company, Quality Leasing, and I think somebody else owns them now. I leased a truck from Quality Leasing and put it on at Dart, and that truck just nearly bankrupted me. And my fleet manager at Dart, he's like, Todd, why don't you get rid of that truck and get a Dart lease purchase truck? And I said, all right, Les, his name's Les, he no longer works there. I said, I'll tell you what, you get me a brand new truck at Dart and I'll turn this truck in. And so he did. He got me a brand new Volvo, and I turned in my quality truck and started doing lease purchase with Dart, and it significantly made more money almost instantly. The problem I last heard for Yellow is something like 90% of their customers pulled their freight last week. Oh, see there, Charlie's been following it a lot closer than I have. Now, if that's true, then you've got a different situation. If they've lost 90% of their customers, then what are you really buying? You're buying the LTL places that they own, and you're buying the equipment. All of those things you can buy in an auction a lot cheaper when they go under. So yeah, we'll see what happens. Admittedly, I haven't been following it very close, and I wish I had been. I didn't really think you guys would be interested in it because we do OTR here stuff, and that's more of a LTL type deal. But I may have to start following it if that's something you guys are into. You'll have to tune in to see. Yeah, I sure will. Sean O'Brien has done a number on UPS for the Teamsters. I don't think he'll give Yellow any leeway. I think he truly wants Yellow to be gone for good. Well, I've told this story in a video too. I I worked for a company, the company that owed me the 1800 that filed bankruptcy while I worked there. And I actually wrote the lease purchase contract for that company. I actually created the lease purchase contract that they had. And I made it very, very favorable to me. There's me and another guy named, coincidentally, his name was Charlie, and we wrote the contract. And there's about 6 or 8 of us, and we all did outstandingly well until the company went belly up. Now, granted, the company may have went belly up with or without my contract, but I think that these Teamsters are doing the same thing. They're trying to negotiate a contract that's going to lead to their demise. And in hindsight, I wish I would have negotiated a little more favorable contract to the company than I did, because I made money hand over fist, but the poor company, there's no way they made money on that deal. I was seeing the rate cons and seeing what they were making, and they were paying me more than what they were making on the load. Now, I need to say though, I didn't see that till after I made the contract. I would have made different numbers had I known that they were doing it at a loss. But bad on them too. They should have known they was signing a bad deal that would only benefit me. Oh yeah, yeah. I appreciate it, Wesley. Yellow has an incredibly low turnover rate, one of the lowest in the industry, has to do with union benefits and restrictions. Certainly not their pay. Yeah, from what I understand, their pension plan is awesome. It's so awesome that Yellow has lost 90% of their customers. Yep, that's what they just said a second ago. UPS customers are looking to do the same thing because they don't want their freight loss. Yeah, yeah, and it's probably going to be a mess if anybody shuts doors. UPS though, and I may have heard this on Contractors Corner, in the past has put a lot of their freight on the spot market when they've gone through challenging times. So the UPS strike might temporarily be good for the spot market, because no, it wasn't on Contractors Corner. I remember where I heard it now, but it might temporarily be good for the spot market if UPS had to dump a bunch of their freight on the spot market to kind of appease their customers. It might also be good for rates because more freight, same amount of trucks. You can figure everything out by supply and demand. If you just apply the laws of supply and demand to the situation, you can figure it out pretty quick. It says yellow trucks are at 60 or 62. Well, there you go. I didn't know that either. The older I get, the less I care about speed. It's all about home time and money. If I can make enough money to pay the bills and be home, then I'm happy. If UPS ever closes, they'll cause a minor recession. We're already in a pretty good little recession, in my opinion. Um, yeah, maybe for a short time. I think other companies, usually when a gap is created like that, somebody else steps in and fills the gap. So it might not be as bad as you're thinking, but there would definitely be something noticeable happen there. I think the same could be said for you for Yellow. If 26,000 people lose their job, or however many that number is, I've heard all different numbers from 9,000 to 26,000. Between office people and drivers and everything, it's uh it's going to have an effect for sure. Figured Old Dominion would buy them. That's a company I didn't even consider. That I bet that there's a lot of behind the scenes negotiations and talks going on right now. And what takes the longest is the legal teams looking at it and see what can be done and what can't be done, and who it'll benefit who and how much. And but this is where the people that get paid the big bucks sit in a boardroom and figure it out. So we're creeping up on the 4 hour mark. I can't believe it. It's been real and it's been fun. If you guys got more, we'll keep it going. We're down to 25 viewers. So I think most of our audience is older people and they've all gone to bed and they'll watch it on the replay tomorrow. But if you've got something you've been waiting to throw up and you just hadn't done it yet, put it out there and we'll talk about it real quick. This is a very good point. I'm 100% sure this is taking place. Old Dominion and ABF are snatching up Yellow's customers. Um, I think that happens all the time. I think trucking companies in general are always trying to take accounts from other companies, but I think for sure they smell blood in the water and they're all trying to gobble up what they can gobble up. And I'll be honest, if I was a salesman for Old Dominion or ABF, I'd be going to Yellow's customers and I'd be like, "Hey, it's bad over at Yellow. Uh, we need to take over your accounts so that you don't lose your freight." I'd be painting the sky is falling picture and picking up as many accounts as I could. And if I was a Yellow salesperson, I'd be going out and I'd say, "Hey, it's tough right now, but we're going to get through this. We just need you to stick with us." I had a buddy in Lubbock that owned an oil change. He actually owned 2 oil change places. And in October, at the time I was selling cars, I was one of his biggest accounts. And in October, he said, "Hey, Todd, end of the year, I'm closing up." He said, "We're just not making it." Well, I said, "All right, I understand." And so he told his employees, "If you'll keep working for me, I'll pay you and I'll give you like a $500 bonus at the end." Well, business started picking up and it got to be November right before Thanksgiving. And he said, "Todd, I was thinking about staying open and all my employees quit." He said, "If they would have just stuck with me, we wouldn't have to close." And he ended up having to close that shop for several years. He's got it reopened now. And it's the same thing here. Sometimes when you smell blood in the water, when there's panicking, everybody runs from the door. And Yellow could recover from this like that oil change place did if people just stuck with them. But that's the two spiels I'd be doing if I was a salesman for any of those companies. Contractor's Corner says, "Be safe, everyone." Sounds like he's checking out. And it seems like a good time for me to check out as well. I probably ought to do a little bit of work tonight. Uh, hey, Charlie, before you leave, send me that account that's blocked, and I'll try to look into it. Uh, the rest of you, I don't think the freight market will completely turn around until the next presidential election. You may be right about that, but remember, you need to win Congress too. Um, if you get a Republican president but a Democratic Congress, they're not going to let him do anything because they don't want him to get credit for it, and vice versa. You get a Democratic president and a Republican Congress, same thing. You need, generally speaking, Republicans are more pro-business, and so you'd like to see a Republican take office. But keep this in mind, even if they do, it's not going to happen overnight. You're talking several months, maybe even 18 months to 2 years before things improve. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. Charlie, send me that account when you get a chance. Oh, it's the Charlie Mahan account. All right, I'm going to look for it, man. You guys have uh, one more. Bring Trump back. I'd be okay with that, or somebody else just like him. He's got so much hate. I don't know how much he'd be able to get done. I like to think he could get a lot done, but we need somebody in there with some backbone and some spine that wants to get something done. But I'm sure we'll talk about it on Tuesday night. You guys have a great weekend. Try to get a video out soon. Have a good night, Wesley. Have a good night, the rest of you. Y'all take care. Bye-bye.